now we're going to do, let's do 3 and 5. Let's get that going. 3, triangle is perfection, harmony, upwards for energy and downwards for relaxation. And the 5 is stability, openness, movement within, deflects outer energies. So let's do the 5 over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, excellent. Let's switch that around. Let's shift that. This 5 over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know first set T. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, excellent. That's good. All right. One thing that I didn't cover yesterday that I'd like to share with you is the actual time matrix of our universal systems, the 5 harmonic universes, and how the dimensions come together. The 15-dimensional matrix, time matrix, I'm going to share with you a shape. It's called the quintessence ball. And what it is, you can use this geometric shape and use this and place it in your third eye for creative visualization. Also, you can manifest this in your heart. You can open up your hand chakras and project light to your hand chakras. And use this, and once you use this geometry, you can use this to go outside of the time matrix and embody all 15 dimensions throughout all 5 harmonic universes. And so the shape, the primary shape is a 5-sided shape, which is a prism. So it's got 2 triangles on each end, and then 3 squares. So it's shortened, so it's circular in nature. So that's the 5-sided shape, which is kind of unique because prisms, what they do is they bend light, and so this is basically set up on that architecture. So do a little prism here. So there's the 5-sided shape representing harmonic universe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the dimensions, what it looks like is if you can imagine each side connected by beams of triangles, and then those connect outward into spirals. And that cell, or that unit, looks like this. 3. So what we're going to do is attach beams of triangles to this, and then you'll have the quintessence ball. Very dimensional here, so it's kind of, if I may draw it another perspective, 1 up, 1 down, and 3 to the side, almost like a Mercedes sign. So if you can imagine it, there'd be 3 up like this, 3 down like this, and then if you're looking down at it, it would be a Mercedes sign like this. So there's 3, 3, and 3, and then up and down. That's the entire geometry of the dimensional system of our 5 harmonic universes. So you can use this shape and use it to go outside of the time matrix and embody all the dimensions simultaneously and help with the harmonics of the DNA. I'd like to now bring on Anna Hayes Gruber. And welcome.
Thank you, Preston. Preston is really neat. When I first met Preston, he amazed me because he talked about things that even I had to decode. I said, wow, he's saying something important. And what is it? Because my brain didn't even work that way. I was like, wow, this guy's good. He knows the number of things, the shape things, that I tend to go on the more language things. Preston, when he explains things like this, he's connecting the concept of using shapes and movements to be able to, if you work with them with your mind, if you hold a shape in your mind, you can use that shape to take you places. It is a form of cheilontic science. When we use the symbol codes that we're familiar with, that we've used in a lot of the workshops, with the pentagram or the Merkaba star, the 6-pointed star, we travel with those. We use them to make changes in our consciousness and our energy. So when he's talking about the shapes such as this, that's what he's referring to. It's a different form of cheilontic science. What I think is neat, I have been able to find, they come into my life, and I'm so glad, I'm so blessed, people like Preston, and people that have been working with cheilontic morphogenetic science, people who have been working with the law of one, completely separate from me. And they know a lot of the things that I've been taught. So it's kind of neat. It's not something that's just coming from me. The things that I teach in my workshops, they're being given to various people on the planet. And those people are starting to come together now because of the time frame. So I'm really grateful when somebody like Preston will come in, and Nancy's going to show us some artwork later. She has some really awesome, what we call resonance alignment imagery. There are ways to use art forms, music forms, but also visual art forms to be able to take you on journeys. You can actually go places with paintings. If you realize everything is an energy field, everything, truthfully, is not a solid object. It is an energy signature. Certain artwork is created from higher levels of consciousness. That artwork can be used to take you back into those frequencies, because those frequencies are imbued within the artwork. And Nancy does this, and it's great because she was doing it long before she met me too. So they're going to be speaking later this afternoon. I'm going to start, and also you're going to help us out today too, aren't you? Yeah, go ahead. I'll put the tape thing on. And Rich, could you help me with my notes, please? Thank you. And as usual, this time, I did in the last workshop, for whoever was there, I didn't have the chart pack ready because we had some problems at home, and my husband wasn't feeling well, and it kind of interfered with getting everything ready on time. This time, we have an 83-page chart pack for you, which is like double the usual, and we've got our Mylars this time, so it'll be more of the usual framework that people got used to. Is it hot in here, or is it just me? It's hot in here, okay. Yeah, is there air conditioning, something or other that works here? Usually we have a full cleaner. It's open? It's still really hot in here. Will they let me put the arrow?
Yeah, there's one there.
Okay. Is there any possibility of getting fans? Okay.
Get the man from the last room, yesterday's room.
Yeah. It's amazing. It gets so hot in these rooms. You think it would be cooler now that it's winter, but it isn't. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. And we've got to get this a little bit better in focus. Can we do that? Welcome to the Millennium Roundup Expose. Why did I call it that? I'll tell you why. Because it's a roundup on just about everything that is going on right now that affects you. And what better time to really take a look at what we're dealing with. This is a great time to like clean your closets and get rid of the junk you don't need. It's a great time to say, do I really like my career or the place I live? It's a great time to reassess where we are, what we want to do with ourselves. We can rebirth ourselves into the new millennium that easily. So it's a very good time for assessing where we're coming from, what's affecting us, what is maybe a more appropriate path to take in general in our personal lives. What do we do now that we have this great new millennium opportunity? It's like a refreshing thing. The old is out of the way now. We can create what we want here. Maybe we can adjust things and create it at a higher level. That's what the millennium, the new millennium, means to me. It means time to sort through the things and separate the chaff from the grain, get rid of the stuff that works, that doesn't work anymore, and keep the stuff that works, add some new things that are better. When I take that concept beyond the personal issue, beyond my closet and getting rid of clothes that don't fit and that kind of stuff, I take it into the global issue, the issue of our collective consciousness. What is happening here? What are my perspectives on what is happening here? Do I want to just completely ignore it because it's too big, because it's about the whole mass thing, and I'll just deal with my closet and my own personal stuff? Or am I going to acknowledge, as part of my new paradigm in the new millennium, that I am a part of an evolving race on this planet? And what affects them out there affects me too. When I decided to do this subject matter, it was because I came to my own realization that I can't lock myself up in my little ivory tower. Okay? A lot of us like to try to do that. We have our little boundaries and we can control that part of our lives. And it gets overwhelming when you try to take into consideration what's going on a global level or even on a city level. Most of us go through phases where we really just don't want to deal with it. There's enough on our own plate. We don't need to worry about the global plate. There's just too much energy involved in it. But part of our own healing is actually going to come from acknowledging our place within that global plate of what is happening. And that's where we hit the first problem. We try to see what that is. What in God's name is happening? There are all sorts of weird things going on. There are things that you will hear about through the mainstream news, your usual nonsense that seems to never change from one like millennium to another. It's the same old stuff. There's a reason for that. It's called a program. There's a basic program that's run through what you will find through the media and through general scientific and religious perspectives. It's a general basic program. Anything that doesn't fit neatly into the belief system of the consensual reality of the mass mean average right now just gets kind of thrown off to the side. Gets put in the shadows or so far into the light that nobody sees it. All they see is the mundane things going on around them. Well, right now, as we enter the new millennium, the things that most affect us are the things that are on the periphery of our perceptions. They're not the things you're going to see in the newspapers. You're not going to find them in the middle of Life magazine as a celebration of their ending, of the old millennium, beginning of the new one. These are things that are considered more on the fringe, which means nobody wants to deal with them yet because they don't understand them. These are the things that are affecting us most. And there are two basic categories that those things fit into. One, things that are showing we are moving, part of our consciousness as a collective is moving toward enlightenment that is beyond what the average mean belief system allows for. The other part is showing that there is a dark side or a shadow side to what is going on in our culture. This is where you get things like secret government, New World Order, ET abductions, flying saucers, government conspiracy, all of that stuff that nobody really wants to deal with. Now, it's very interesting because our population really has large numbers of people on both sides of the fringe. And it's very possible that if you put the two fringes together, you would have as much as you have in the middle, maybe more. So if the fringe can come together and start to understand each other, if the people who have been involved with the shadow side, with abduction experiences of secret government, of really, scary things that most people don't want to deal with, if they can come together into a light of understanding with the people who are moving in the spiritual realms, where they're understanding consciousness in scientific terms and realizing that consciousness and spirituality and science all go together. Science and spirituality aren't separate. That's some of the things we teach. So in this workshop, I want to bring together the shadow and the light. We have that inside of ourselves. For us, on a personal level, we have deep inside part of ourselves that from our early childhood program, we're taught to say, oh, that's not acceptable. I'm bad when I do that, or when I feel that, or when I think that. We repress this level of ourself. And it goes into the subconscious mind. And we think, well, because it's not here anymore, it's gone. It isn't gone. That was energy that was part of your identity that got stuck somewhere. And it's in a disharmonic pattern. It's not in a pattern that is ordered into a harmonious flow with the rest of your being, and therefore it creates a blockage. People that study psychology are aware of the concept of the shadow, the personal shadow, and that the true healing of the identity comes from bringing the shadow up and reordering it through the understanding of the light, where you acknowledge it and you validate its existence. And you don't make it wrong for being what it is. You try to understand why it is what it is and try to lead it and grow it to a higher level where it integrates with you. We're going to have an exercise as we move on in the morning that's about doing that on a personal level that will help you to begin to release those energies. Because in other workshops we've talked about the words miasms. Now, miasm is actually a crystallization of energy that has a reverse polarity to what the rest of your morphogenetic field has. A miasm serves as a blockage of energy in the morphogenetic field. And what it manifests as for us is disease or disharmonic thought patterns or emotional impulses that are confusing to us, those kind of things. We all have something called a miasmic body. That's the part of ourselves that, not just in this lifetime, but over many lifetimes, has built up. The part of ourselves we never dealt with and integrated, that has a lower vibrational frequency, and that works in reverse to our forward-moving impetus toward evolution. When we're going into ascension training, the miasmic body has to be reversed back into the whole body of the morphogenetic field. When we apply that same concept to the collective consciousness and to the global ascension process, the shadow part of our society that's symbolized in the people that are having these dark and scary experiences, they need to be validated too. They need to be validated, brought up, and not judged for what they are. They need to be healed and brought into the light. And then they will, just like a miasm can release from your own crystal body, your own morphogenetic field, they will no longer be miasmic influences in our world either. These are things happening here that represent a collective expression of the shadow, the parts of our collective consciousness that have not yet integrated into the higher light that's coming in through our soul integration processes. And we can make a choice. We can cut them off like most mainstream people like to do. A lot of spiritual people like to do that too. It's all light and love and I don't want to see the dark. Oh, if I look at it, I empower it. Not exactly. If you look at it, you empower yourself to heal it. If you refuse to look at it, you're in denial, and what you resist persists. This is where a little twist comes in, where a lot of the people who are truly, they're in the New Age and they're really trying to focus on the positive things to create, they seem to think by ignoring it, it goes away. There's a difference between ignoring something to make it go away and saying, I'm not going to give it any of my attention, therefore it will cease to be. You can say that about gravity. I wouldn't try jumping off a building anytime soon, because its influence will still affect you, because you have not learned to transcend its influence. Now, there are people who can transcend the influence of gravity. They can levitate and other things. It's not because they refuse to acknowledge the existence of gravity. It's because they acknowledge it fully, embrace it, learn about it, understand it, learn to modulate the bioenergetic fields in their DNA and their consciousness so they can transcend its influence. Then it's no longer a problem. That's what we need to do with our personal shadows. That's how they get integrated, by acknowledgement. That's how you become whole. That's what we need to do with our collective shadow. So here, I'm hoping, and it was almost like kind of baiting when I sent out those flyers. I was hoping that I would get people from both sides, because most of the people that come to my workshops are people that are already ready for spirituality. There are a lot of people that are dealing with secret government and all the dark forces and things like remote viewing, where they know about astral bodies and things, but they don't know that there's things higher than that. There's a lot of people caught in the negativity that I wanted to see if talking about Montauk Project and what's really going on with the shadow would help them come in, because they need to know where the spiritual connection is. They tend to look at people that are involved in spirituality So yeah, those out there people, people that are spiritual can't deal with reality the way it is. Listen, reality is the way you create it. And if you want it to be spiritual, go for it, because you will create it that way, and that is actually the greater framework. I was hoping there would be kind of both shadow and light represented here, more than usual, but the usual groups that come here are very, very light-filled. And it's funny because I'm looking around, and it's like 99% of you are still the same guys. And I'm so glad you're back. So it won't be as, I was preparing for this workshop thinking, okay, what if we get like a lot of people into the, the Montauk boys and these guys that are really into that kind of stuff. How am I going to handle that in the audience? Because that can get challenging, because they'll challenge everything spiritual you have to say. And I was ready for that, but it looks like I'm not going to get too much of it, so I don't have to worry about it. Now, I put a lot, in the chart packs, I put a lot of text in them this time. And that was just in case something happened where I didn't get to have this particular workshop, they would still be available. Usually in the chart packs, they're what I use on the Mylars. And they're like an outline with not a lot of filler text in it, because you hear that when you're here. So if you get a chart pack without without being here, it's going to be like, well, great, I see the subject matter, but what about it? This one, the what about it's are in there too. So this one, you could take and you could give it to somebody and they see what this was about. So if there's anything you want to share in here with people, you could share the chart pack with them this time. And even if they're coming into it cold, instead of trying to remember everything, oh, it's kind of neat because we talked about this and this, you have it right there. And you also have what's basically being said about it. So the chart packs are bigger this time, and they're more, I try to make it more valuable to the people who purchase them, where they're not just an outline of what you saw here. Okay, so there's quite a few sheets that we're going to see coming up, flipping up. I'll just go with the introduction here. This is what I've really been talking about here. You'll have your own introduction in the chart packs, that kind of thing. Don't worry about not being able to read the small type, because it's there for when it's on paper. Okay? Go to the next one, please. Here it goes. Other way. There we go. Hey, guest speaker, Richard Davis. Melchizedek Cloister Rabbinate. That's what MCR stands for, just in case anybody doesn't know. Okay. Richard is going to do something called harmonic resonance. It's an exercise that's meant to bring the group energies into an average mean of frequency, where it is much easier to transmit information on multiple levels. Because I don't know if any of you know this, when I do these workshops, I'm talking to you here, I'm also transmitting it to here and here and here, and whatever level of your bioenergetic field it can pick it up. So you're getting kind of little messages left, email messages, that later, as you evolve and you pull in frequency, they'll start coming to you as direct cognition, as your own. So I speak on multiple dimensional levels when I speak. We all do. The only difference between me and you is I'm aware of it. I'm aware that I do this. I can feel my consciousness going this way and this way and this way. Well, when one's speaking multidimensionally, or when one's speaking even here, this little exercise that Rich is going to do, you can use any version of this, even a simplified one that just by following the steps you can come up with yourself. You can use this between two people in a relationship, which can be really helpful if you're having a spat with your spouse. You can use it in your office when you're working, with coworkers and there's tensions and things like that. You can use this in large groups of people to bring into harmony the energy fields. So when you begin to transmit what it is you have to say, there is a level where you can find to transmit into that's already harmonized into one set of vibrational frequencies. Right now, when I look at the room in fourth dimensional perception, I can see the level of consciousness by this thing that looks like a disc that sits on our head. It's actually a formation that comes from the activation of the 8th and 9th chakras, but it's always there in dormant form. It only starts to spin and stuff when you have the chakras activated. Now, everybody's disc is at a higher level or lower level. It's a different level for everybody. Rich is going to take you through an exercise where those discs, you become aware of your own. You learn to modulate it a little bit, to move it up and down, and later you can use this to take your consciousness higher or bring it down to a lower frequency. Okay? Then it's going to teach you how to combine it with the room. So everybody can get their minds in the same area of vibration if you want to understand each other, or if you're in a place where you want to understand the speaker better. This is something that's really, really valuable. If anyone is teachers, or they're teaching groups, or they're working with groups, if you teach the group to do this first, you'll have much better results in the information you're able to convey. If you work with children, groups of children, they love this kind of stuff. They'll play with it. And even if you work in a kind of rigid school system that doesn't allow you to do things like meditation because it's too close to prayer, do it yourself. They don't have to know. You can set a grid, and Richard's going to show you how this is done. Basically, the concepts you need to remember are simply the disc that is being used, observe how Richard uses it, and think of ways that you can use this in your own life. There are many other things you can do with this disc. This is just a beginning, but it is very useful. So we're going to let Richard Davis do this exercise called harmonic resonance, setting the fields for expansion. And then once he sets the fields and gets us all in that average mean, what I'm going to try to do is bring my disc into yours and then take you all with me and see how far we can go. So it may be an interesting presentation. So, here you go. This is Richard Davis. Switches?
Yeah,
There they are. Yeah, there we go.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm going to be tuning the room, actually, just like a symphony orchestra. Just like a symphony orchestra. You are all instruments. Your energy fields are individual.
Louder.
Your energy fields are individual, but you can harmonize them. And when you harmonize them, the field develops an energy of its own. One that you can use in conjunction with each other to feel the energy Anna is transmitting and to bring it into you much more easily. So, to get the show on the road, let's all close our eyes, relax, get in a comfortable position that you normally would do meditation. Start breathing freely and deeply, very relaxed. Now picture a disc above your head, above the 8th and 9th chakras. This disc of energy we will now take this disc and move it down to just above the head. Let it sit there a moment and breathe deeply in. Bring the energy into it. Now move the disc upwards to the 14th chakra, 36 inches above the head. And again, breathe the energy through it. Now slowly bring it down into the body, down to the heart chakra, where your energy will be absorbed. Continue breathing slowly and deeply. Now take this disc of energy, move it down through the body, out the feet, and down into the center of the earth. All of this are there together. They will all be harmonized by the energies of the earth. Feel the energies, the harmony that is becoming. Continue breathing in energy into your disc. You will feel the harmony. Now we'll slowly bring this back up into the body on several breaths. Taking your time running through the body. harmonize it with all the chakras as you go past. Continue on up through the body, and again back into the fourth chakra of the head, 36 inches. Take several deep breaths here. You'll notice that your disc is spinning. All the discs around you are spinning. You can feel them. They vibrate along with yours harmoniously. Now bring the disc back down to just above your head. Make sure it's spinning, slowly expanding outwards with each breath. It's merging with all the other discs and spins. Feel your disc reaching the limits of the room so that everyone in here is covered by it. Everyone covers you. Continue breathing. Feel the harmony, the energy flow. This is setting the stage for Anna so that she can take this harmonized energy, work with it, each of your individual instruments down, creating harmony. Feel the energy running through. And at any time during the course of the day you become distracted, etc., bring your mind back into the state. It will immediately reestablish itself around you. Maybe a few more times, feeling the energy. Now,
Keep their eyes closed. I'll take it from here on play. Okay, now that everybody's there, where's your disc? There should be a sense of a spinning a little bit on top of your head, over the crown chakra. Try to become aware of the sense of that spin. And again, as Richard had said, expand it outward, first a little bit, until you can feel the bump of your neighbor's disc. Because if you do it slow enough, you'll feel a little resistance when your disc intersects with theirs. Focus on it just a little until you can feel the reality of it. It'll start to become more real for you when you slow your perceptions down enough to feel that little bump where yours stops and theirs starts. Once you feel that, or even if you don't feel it yet, it's there. Eventually you will if you play with this exercise. Begin to expand again, where you feel the circumference of your disc expanding outward into the room, again until it touches the walls, like a big horizontal disc spinning about halfway in the middle of the air in the room. Feel yourself for a moment as part of a collective of consciousness, of the people sitting in this room right now today. For a moment, try to take your attention and put it in the center of the collective disc. Imagine where the center point would be in the large disc that's spinning in the room. Try to put your connection of your consciousness right there. From that place, in the center of the collective, you will be able to move, if you try, move your consciousness out, like a spoke on a wheel, into any direction within that disc. And each direction will bring you a different form of perception, because you will be intersecting a different segment of the individual spinning discs that are part of that larger disc. Bring yourself into the center, and then pick an angle. We call it a vector. Pick a line of projection from that center point in the center of the collective disc, but you're just going to move yourself in a straight line. Move your consciousness in a straight line out to the end of the wall, where it hits the wall. Kind of throw it out there once, just to get your line set. Bring your consciousness back to the center. Now with the breath, on the exhale, slowly move your consciousness down that line you set. And begin to spread it out just a little, sideways as you move down that center line. Start to feel the reality of the energy around you. If you can play with this, you will start eventually to get a feeling of things that are different than what you are used to. Because you've taken your consciousness outside of its tight focus within your own disc, and you've moved it into a different energy field of the collective. You've moved it out of the one vector that represented your line of consciousness and into another. That was a subtle demonstration of what it means to move from single vector consciousness to multi-vector consciousness. Using this disc technique and the concept of it being a wheel that you can put the spokes on, you can learn to open up multiple lines of consciousness simultaneously. First you set the individual ones and shift out of the one you're in. Then set up 2 or 3 at the same time and see if you can spread your consciousness in 3 directions and follow the line out to the wall and back again. This is something that will take practice, but if you use a technique like this, you will build new neural networks, new nerve endings, that will allow you to process more frequency, more quickly. Eventually, you will be able to learn to do something that feels really neat, which is throw your consciousness right into the middle of the disc, and in one burst, expand it out to the whole disc at once, where you get to feel the presence of all the people that are part of that disc, as part of your consciousness, as part of you. This is where you begin to feel the oneness. See if you can do that for a moment. Most people, it takes some practice, but there's a lot of special people in this room, and we've been working with DNA, so it may work for everybody. Put your attention back in the center of the disc that's in the center of the room, the collective disc. With your attention there, now everybody's little spark of attention is there like a little flame that's starting to build in the center of the disc. Inhale and exhale slowly a few times, 2 or 3. Now on your last inhale, you're going to hold it for a second, and then you're going to push out with that exhale and push your consciousness all the way out through the whole disc. See how far you can make it go. See if you can make it hit the walls. And you can try it again. Inhale and bring the consciousness back into the center point. And then push it out again. Went out further that time. That worked. Now sit there for a minute and gently breathe. And see if you can feel your consciousness touching the walls on either side of the room, or even on all 4. See if you can feel your awareness outside your body. Because it's there right now. Your awareness goes where you put it. Working with exercises like this is the beginning of developing multi-vector consciousness, which is another way of saying the ability to project your consciousness, such as in astral projection or remote viewing. When you work with things like this, it stimulates the 4th DNA strand into activation more quickly. Bring your consciousness back to the center again, and then find your vector, the line that you send your consciousness out from your own little disc out into the center of the room, and track it backward, back to your own little disc. Bring it back to the crown chakra on the top of the head, and drop it down inside that chakra just a little, until it's right behind the forehead, where the pineal gland would be, where it intersects with the 6th chakra, the 3rd eye. Now your consciousness is stationed inside your head again. It just moved, transmigrated. Imagine on your inner screen of vision now. image of Egypt. Imagine the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. Those are the most commonly identifiable things that mean Egypt to people. See if you can visualize there. Either one of those structures, whichever one you're most drawn to. Now, just as you created a vector to project your consciousness along when you went out into the room, you can do this to connect to other places. And we're going to get more into this more deeply in an exercise later. This is the beginning of learning how to move yourself into remote viewing, which is where you begin to access things that things like the secret government already know how to do. It gives you eyes where they have their eyes. So it evens out the score of things. Now, imagine from the center of your pineal gland in the center of your brain, you're drawing a line of energy with your consciousness outward into your field, into about maybe 6 inches in front of your head. That's where you're going to hold the image of the pyramid or the Sphinx. Draw that line of energy from the center of your brain out to whichever of those places you would like to go. Once you have the line set, then come back down the line back to the pineal. Take an inhale, and on the exhale, push your consciousness into the image of that structure. Imagine you're inside of it now. Try to feel it around you. If you do this enough times, you will begin to pick up the energy signal of the space you just projected to. Because energy is energy. Space, time, and matter and solidity and distance are just an illusion created by perception. Try it again. Bring your consciousness back to your pineal gland. Inhale it back. And hold the inhale for a second. And then send it more strongly back out to Egypt. Get yourself right in that pyramid. Even if you've never been there this life, guaranteed, at some time or another in the last number of thousands of years, somebody in there has your cellular memory imprint. You have an incarnation that has something to do with it. Most people have been there. So there's an imprint in there somewhere, what it feels like to be inside that space. Work with moving your consciousness back and forth until you begin to feel the reality of that other space. You're learning to come out of your immediate space-time energy signature and move into another. That's also the key to bilocation. It's also the key to full transmutation to someplace else for ascension. So this exercise is a very good beginning point. And it will be on the tapes. This is the first time. These always are spontaneous, so they kind of come out. And that's why I don't have them in the chart pack so long, because they come out and they're something that we create together in truth. For when Richard got your discs going together, and I merged mine with that, I asked a question. What would be good to do now? Should we just bring them back, or should we do something here? And I got kind of a collective voice to take us someplace. Take us someplace we're not used to being. Show us it can shift. At least show us how it's done. So I tried to respond to that, what I got out of your collective disc. I said, okay, let's do this. And I opened to my own higher power and let it guide me. And that's what we just did. Now, there's another little thing you can use the disc for. It's what I just described. When you and anything or anybody else are together or engaged in conversation, you are in a position where you can bring your discs together. There will be a collective consciousness made out of both of you that will be greater than the sum of its parts. If you're having a spat with your spouse, if you can shift for a minute, move into your disc, try to locate theirs. Reach out and feel a little, try to locate theirs. Try to make that spin bigger to encompass both of you. And then ask the collective entity that together you form, what is the healing solution here now? Just open yourself to receive a direct cognition on what that will be. You can find amazing results happening when you do this, because you're learning to combine your fields You're learning to control your energy fields and direct them where you want them to go. So I'm going to bring you back into the room now. And it's kind of neat because I'm looking at the collective disc and there's sparks going off in it, which means there's things triggering in people's fields. And this is good. It doesn't always happen. But sometimes when you move consciousness, like we just moved it into the Egypt location, and some of you got there and some of you didn't quite get there, but you all set the pattern to get there. That triggered energy movement. And that registers when you start to see these discs in the fourth dimension, they register as sparks. When your DNA activates, it registers as sparks. They're like popcorn. Some people describe them as popcorn popping. So this is good. I think we're ready to go into the subject matter of the light and the shadow. We're going to very quickly just do a roundup on the New Age movement. Most people are fully aware of what that is already, especially this group, so I don't have to educate you too much. Then we're going to do a roundup on the secret government. The secret government stuff, it's more than just what is happening with human beings. It gets into an issue of extraterrestrial beings and beyond that. Everybody's waking up. It's so cute. Everybody looks like little kids just getting out of bed. Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm here.
Our disc is going clockwise or counterclockwise?
What?
Our disc is going clockwise or counterclockwise?
Whatever way feels natural for you. And when you visualize the disc in the room, you'll have two counter-rotating fields, because some people will go one way and some will go the other. So you let it just be whatever feels natural to you. Okay. What did you think of that? Did anybody get feeling from that particular exercise? Did you feel a shift in your perceptions, a little different than you might be used to, to doing with yourself? How many people felt a bit of a shift there, where you put your awareness somewhere where you didn't usually put it? Can you see how you could use this personally to do all sorts of neat stuff? To harmonize situations, to find out information, to create spy tactic too. Only if you're doing spying for good purposes. But you can't invade anybody else's field anyway, as far as invasion spying goes. But if you want to understand somebody better, you can put yourself in your disc, put your awareness there, reach out for theirs and know it's there somewhere. And call upon the collective entity that the two of your consciousness forms. Say, help me understand what needs to be done here. How do I bring the light of spirit here? You can find amazing things happen and shift. For a little homework assignment, I never give these, but this would be fun. Keep track for 2 weeks. Keep a journal. And discipline yourself to once a day, doesn't matter where or when or with who, taking one situation once a day that you will remember your disc and remember to use it to link with somebody else's field. It can also be an animal. They have a disc too, their own type. You can link with an animal or an insect if you want to. But it will show you the most value if you first do it with another human, especially if it's a human you have a conflict with. So pick the toughest targets. And even if you're really, really angry at that person, before you go into your disc, okay, for this moment I surrender all judgment. And I will just simply not put any judgment here, and I will allow whatever it is to be. Then, move your disc out to theirs. Say, I'm simply willing to understand. I'm simply willing to open to bringing light and understanding here. And get the feel of the two discs coming together. And you may feel at first when you do it with somebody where there's some, negative emotions between you. Move through the static and just get it to I am peace, I am harmony. Move them together. And simply say, allow God, allow universal energy, allow the concept of peace and harmony and beauty to move through this field. And before I leave my consciousness from this place, is there anything I can do to serve this entity that is the two of us together that would create healing and harmony? See what this does for you. It can do amazing things for you. I have worked with this, with conflicts with different people that, I have had in my life. Believe me, with a paradigm I'm teaching, I get lots of those. I've even managed to have people that would normally take totally
opposition stances to what I stand for. Either because they're very, very programmed into certain dogmas that would, have to make me bad because I'm teaching metaphysics or something like that. I'd like to harmonize it where even they come out of themselves a little into, I like you anyway. You can find healing through this disc technique and many, many other things. We're going to probably have a whole series of tapes eventually, they tell me, on using the disc technique in many different ways for all sorts of things, from healing to learning to get yourself out of body very quickly to all sorts of neat stuff. So you got a taste of it. Now, we're going to, a little while after I get further through the program, we're going to go into a very specific remote viewing exercise, because one of the things that has been taught to me, and I agree with, is that if you want to be able to be prepared for what's going on here, you have to acknowledge with the shadow side, they are dealing with technologies that are going into fourth dimension. They know how to use remote viewing. Our government knows how to use remote viewing. And they don't just view. They know how to push their consciousness into other people's consciousness and make them do what they want them to do. They have trained forces to do this. So does the USSR. So do other countries have developed this. We're the ones sitting here going, oh, we can't do this stuff, let me believe this stuff. Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? They're using it on us. And these are just the human element. We can simply realize we have these abilities. Start to hone them a bit. And then it's like you see somebody come in and your field and before it says, excuse me, do you have an invitation? And if you don't, get out. They don't know what to do with people who do this. They kind of go, uh-oh, can't mess with that one, So sometimes it's as simple as that, is not being affected by the collective shadow. Simply knowing you have a fourth and higher dimensional reality. They're not expecting you to know this. So one of the things we want to get you familiar with, and I think we're going to be very technique intensive today. I'm just getting a feeling we're going to get some spontaneous things thrown in, because this is a group that has been primarily, most people have been familiar with the work enough where I don't have to start in kindergarten and work you out through. You're already, at the college level with it, and it's great. So we can play more. We can go out and say, okay, we've had enough words, let's do stuff. Let's experience stuff, and this is what I'll try to take you into. But I do want to try to follow some of the things that I have in the chart packs on the program. I put it together because it has a flow where we can understand where the elements fit. When we're dealing with the fringe of the light and the shadow, and the clueless spaces in between where we all just focus on mundane things and ignore the both sides. We're actually dealing with the same thing with the light and the shadow. Now, when we talk about enlightenment, we're talking about things that usually are coming out of the New Age. The spirituality, bringing in higher consciousness, some people call it Christ consciousness. We're dealing with a lot of things that mainstream people consider very weird. You start, carrying your crystals around and, doing mantras at lunch and things like this, and your coworkers, what cult are you a part of? That kind of thing. They went off the deep end. Mainstream just doesn't understand yet that we're playing with advanced physics. Part of what we can do is inform them. Simply, if you're working with things like crystals or energy work, or you are toning, you have every right to do this. Too bad if other people think it's weird. But it might help, pull out your disc, get it going, and telepath to them. I'm working with high science. I'm working with multidimensional physics. Do you know anything about multidimensional physics? When you come down to this level, think, hi, it's probably seems strange to you. Do you realize I'm using physics here? The most advanced physics that our scientists know about right now, because we do know about it. So this is a way you can go from where you are with the more spiritual New Age stuff that people like to stuff in the fringe and make it weird for. You can explain to them why, excuse me, I'm not the fringe at all. I'm part of the New Age enlightenment that's coming, yes. You can join if you like. Did you know this was science? Did you know this was physics? They go, no, I really didn't. Is it really? Gee, the experts never told me that. It wasn't on like Plantagenet Square, or New York Times. Gee, they might start to listen. You can use these concepts. What I want to get into, I was going to go through the Voyages project just in case there were people here that have not been part of the workshops. I can give a real quick rundown on it, just to show you what we've done so far. Some of you have been at all of the workshops we've had, some have been at some and not others. I want to show you the progression of what we call the Voyages project. These presentations and workshops have been about. They led up to this one. Okay, let's change that one. this. I told you to. Yeah, go to the next one. Okay, that they can just read too. Keep going. It's one way to make it faster. See, these are all the pages you can read. You can't see up here, but you can read in your chart packs. Okay, now, other way. All right, let's go. All right, I don't know if anybody came to this one. A lot of people found out about me from this one. This was the first introduction I made of any of this material at the expo in, where's the date? It's on here someplace. It was May 21st, 22nd, 23rd of this year. And we introduced the books there. We introduced Keelantic Science. So that was, and this is funny, because this progression that you'll see here, guess when I saw it? Last week when I was putting together this presentation, I didn't realize that somebody up there had a design to how these workshops were formatted. I didn't realize there was a sequence either, but there was. There was a reason each little piece of information was covered in the way it was to lead up to putting all those pieces together. So it was kind of neat. It was a surprise to me too, so I'm kind of sharing with you the surprise. Here, we basically dealt with the paradigm of the Taurinaceum race, the 12-strand DNA. We introduced this. Excuse me, we didn't come from apes. We came from, a higher evolved type of being that we can evolve back into. This was like, wow, people like, I've never heard this before. So it kind of caught on pretty good. We went from there, introducing the things at that seminar, at the expo, to doing our own workshops. One of them was this one, or the next one is this one, coping skills for coming earth changes. In this one, we dealt with the DNA and spontaneous activation of the DNA. We dealt with the fact that we are going into a stellar activation cycle, what that means on a personal level, more so than on a global level. What some symptoms are you may have of these energy changes, what you can do with them. For each of these workshops, we have a chart pack for anybody that wasn't there or didn't get them. We're also trying to get them all on audio tape. Various people taped them. We didn't have the equipment or anything with us to do that. So we're trying to make them available to people who may want them. If you missed any and you want to, catch what was given before. Because every one of them are different. We introduce usually a bit of new stuff in each one. And combine old stuff that was given in a new way. So they each build on each other. So this one dealt with primarily preparing you and your body to raise frequency, to get the DNA activated so you don't go into health problems when the energy changes on the planet. So that one focused on that. Then this one, I didn't give this one up here. I was invited to do this one. This is, let's get the top part on there. There, that's the title. Alien Agendas. Now, this one was to be given in Bordentown, New Jersey, at a particular expo that they had there. But I got there, and the thing was so small. There was like 4 people left in the audience by the time I was on. I said, we'll do this another time. So I didn't do this one, but sometime I might. I have, the whole format for it. In this one, I was planning to talk about the whole alien contact and abduction phenomenon that's taking place, because a lot of people like to ignore that. This was meant for the groups of people who were in the real UFO groups, who are, more, I don't mean it offensively, but sometimes I call them saucer chasers. They don't want to know about the spirituality. They want to know about silver ships flying through the air who's on it. And this was kind of geared toward that. But that's also part of the shadow understanding that we need to integrate as spiritual people. They may be missing the spiritual part, but a lot of us are missing the metal ship part. The fact that we are being visited. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about in this presentation. I'm not going to emphasize it a lot, but I can show you where it fits. Okay, thanks. Thank you. This was one of my favorites. How many of you were here for this one, the personal healing through planetary service? Yeah, quite a few of you. That was so special to me because that one was where we explored getting our connection to the Earth back, where we began to really feel our connection to the planetary grid and to understand what the planetary shields are, the scalar grids that control the energy of the planet. We learned about our connection to that and how our DNA is connected to the planetary shields, how our own morphogenetic field is connected to them, and how we can reawaken that connection to help heal ourselves and also help the planet. We covered a lot of things in this one. I think this is the one we got into the advanced Merkaba mechanics. Is it? Yeah. This was the one. We got into I didn't even know they were going to do this when they gave me the information for this, when the Guardians gave me the information for this. They gave me stuff on Merkaba that's not out there yet. Nobody else is teaching it. The phases of building the Merkaba vehicle. So we got into all of that. That was a very special presentation. There's a large chart pack that goes with that one too, that shows the phases of Merkaba building, how it's done, how it goes with the process of Huba body integration that are covered in the tape courses that we have now. So that was a very special one. So now we're getting more sophisticated as we went. We started with general paradigm. We went into personal stuff. What's happening and how it's going to affect you. Then we expanded out to the planet a little bit, where your connection to the planet is and how this is going to affect the planet. So I'm starting to see, when I look back on it, the progression of how the information was given. Okay, let's see this one. This one, the evolutionary path of human consciousness. I love this one because I got to tell the secrets of the Melchizedeks, which a lot of it is still secret. People, it's just not been released out there. I just don't have the chart path for this one yet because this one almost got sabotaged to the point where we didn't even make the plane to get here. So I worked the whole workshop off an outline, literally. And a lot of people said it was great. Were a lot of you at this one? Yeah. And a lot of people said they were happy with it, even though I didn't have my chart packs and all that. We covered, in this one, the connection to the higher matrices of consciousness. We started to explore, okay, now we got to the earth level. Now we went up higher into the gestalts of consciousness that exist beyond us, into the families, such as the Melchizedek family line, which comes down from the ultra-terrestrial levels that are beyond the time matrix, moves down in through the time matrix and all the way down to us, where portions of us are direct expressions of the Melchizedek family line. And actually, we're all connected to it. We learned that the word Melchizedek is a tonal resonance that goes with the original, what we call God seed, or original individuated morphogenetic field within Source that the human lineage manifested through. Not just the human lineage, so did the Syrian and the Palladian lineages in higher harmonics. So we learned a lot there about our connection to creation. So we went from planet to creation. Again, we were building. Now, here we are at this one. In this one, we've built enough understanding of A, what is happening, what we came from. B, what it might mean to us on a personal level. C, where we fit in on a planetary level with it. Where we connect with our true power to really change it with the spiritual, higher levels connection. Now, we're going to put all the pieces together. I'm going to wait on those. Okay, I can put those at the end. We're going to put all the pieces together so we can look at what's going on here sanely and not be confused about the light or the shadow. When we get into, we can take that off now. Yeah, get on the next type one. There. Yeah, okay. This one's the roundup on the New Age movement. Basically, we're dealing with everything from angelic contact to people having more and more near-death experiences, having more spontaneous enlightenments. They just get spiritual. There are all sorts of things happening in the New Age movement that most mainstream people just laugh at and kind of poo-poo and consider it, below them. That's just flakes that do that. Well, the New Age movement is working with energy mechanics. A lot of the people in the New Age movement don't understand exactly what those mechanics are. That's where the danger is. Because if you don't understand the structures of multidimensionality and you open yourself to them, it's like going for a swim in the middle of the ocean without knowing how to swim. There are dangers, as well as many rewards in opening to multidimensionality. There's one thing that's missing with a lot of the New Age stuff, is people, because it's just something new, it's starting to come, the awarenesses are starting to come, and everybody feels that vibration, and of course they want to open to it. We tend to open to it indiscriminately. And right now we're in a time period where that is very, very dangerous to do. It's fine to open to it. In fact, you need to open to it, but you need a structure so you understand what you're opening to and so you can stop the other things. I call it the difference between love, light, and awareness and love, light, and cluelessness. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people, wonderful, good-hearted people in the New Age movement that will surrender their power to anything that calls itself an angel up there. I'm Michael, I'm Raphael, I'm George, whoever you are. It's like, here, save me. That's fine. There are angelic presences. They're for real. They're matrices of consciousness. Most of the angelic ones come from D6 and D7. You get up to like D8 and D9, they tend to call themselves archangels at that point. But in our system of understanding, if we look at, all right, D8 and 9, we're still dealing with oversouls here. All right, they're not God. Right? There can be problems with consciousness anywhere from D12 down. So when you talk to an angel, it's better to know yourself well enough to be able to go into your connection to Source. Say, well, is this an angel I really want to talk to? Or really want to follow? Sure, I'll talk to you. Let me see if it's a good thing first. This is something that's missing within the New Age. What's happening right now is really frightening. And if your D4 vision starts to stimulate and you start seeing some scary things, don't think you're losing your mind. There are things trying to enter people's astral bodies at this point in the game. A lot of them are connected to the planet Nibiru, who are trying to come in here and take over again. They want the halls of Mente that are opening. They want the portals, the stargates. Right now, we are under massive astral attack, and we don't know it as a general rule. This group will know it, and that's good. Now, if we go to a shrink and say, I think I'm under astral attack, we have a drug for that problem. You know, you can take a drug and it might, calm you right down and tranquilize you to the point where you don't care. It's not going to change the fact that your astral body might be being invaded. Okay? This is what's dangerous about what's happening out there with the psychiatric community. They have not caught up yet with the consciousness they're trying to serve. They're trying. But until they acknowledge that there is a tangible structure to the soul, there is a whole structure to multidimensional identity, they're not going to be able to do a whole lot of good. They can help on the three-dimensional stuff, the surface relationship stuff, the stuff that came from childhood this time. They can help you process that. But if you're under astral attack, they don't even know those places exist. If you get medicated, because you're under astral attack and don't know it, you are still under astral attack, and it makes it easier for it to integrate your personality. So, if you know those things, and I'm not here to scare people, not at all. I'm here to give people the knowledge, but they don't have to be scared because they get what's going on. The things you need to do to protect from astral interference or astral attack is not take a drug. Drugs aren't going to affect it. They're just going to help it along by numbing you so you're even less conscious. Yeah. What you need to do is build frequency in your bioenergetic field. That's not that hard. It means activating higher chakras, activating a bit more of the DNA. You can build frequency immunity to that kind of attack. You can seal your astral body. That's going to be our saving grace, that we're learning how to do this, because we're going to stay above the mind control tactics and those kind of things that we're going to talk about in a little bit when we talk about what's happening with the shadow. But before I talk about the shadow, I want you to realize you don't have to be afraid of any of the things I'm talking about. Before I go into how bad it looks, I'm going to tell you, no matter how bad it is, you don't have to be scared. You're given the tools here that you can protect yourself, and you can help other people do the same thing. The tools we give you in learning about your multiple identity structure will give you the tools to modulate your fields, so no matter what tries to zap you from what level, you're going to have established connections already through your bioenergetic field. So you're going to be okay. It's better than taking a drug. If things get weird in the next 10 years, which they very much might be, you don't have to freak out with a lot of people who don't know this stuff and we're going to. It's going to be funny because you're probably going to have a lot of the shrinks taking the pills. They'll be prescribing for each other. I'm having a nervous breakdown. Please help me. They'll go to the neighbor. Mike George. Yeah. And people that are working with psychology are wonderful people. They really want to understand what's happening with the mind. Most of them are very good people who really, really want to help. And most people are drawn to psychology because you tend to do best what you most need done to you, and you tend to teach best what you most need to learn. So people who are drawn to psychology tend to do it as a way of healing themselves through healing others. And that's fine. We all need healing here. God, we're human this time around, and we've been genetically mutated. If we took these some help, it's okay. I'm hoping at some point to get enough people putting little bugs in the ears of people that are in psychology to somebody inviting me to speak to a group of them, just psychologists and psychiatrists, and introduce the paradigm, 15-dimensional physics, And a precise identity structure that fits into that, and a precise way of bringing that into activation. They don't have a paradigm that comes anywhere near the paradigm reason. This is why they can't fix you, but you will be able to fix you through this paradigm. You will have the roadmap. You will have the mechanics. I'm not some guru that you have to call me and say, fix me, please fix me. Nope. That's not helping you. That's like feeding the person and not showing them how to grow the food. What happens if something happens to you? And I always keep that into consideration because, I'm a big mouth, especially that, where I'm going to be talking about this in various places. I began talking in Florida about the shadow and the light and the shadow, and I just kind of let it rip, and that we have a tape on that, the little single tape. I just let it rip in that little workshop. It wasn't even a workshop, it was a 2-hour lecture. They were a great group. They were already metaphysically oriented. So we got into the whole thing. We talked about harp and we talked about things we're talking about today. If I disappear or something happens to me, I'm not worried about it. I am protected, and if it does, I know there's a higher reason for it, but they probably said, well, you did enough. you got enough information out. But if it ever did, I don't want the people that have been following the work to get lost. That's why all along I've emphasized, I'm not what's important, it's what I teach. If I went away tomorrow and you never saw me again, you have those teachings, and you have a part of you that understands them. With those two things together, you can take them and run. You can take them and fly. You can take them and ascend. So this is what I've always tried to do. Keep it on work. In the New Age, there's a couple things everybody really should pay attention to. There are healers out there that don't know how to align their fields because they don't know the roadmap. They assume I'm centering myself in white light so I'm safe. I hate to tell you, even a fifth dimensional negative one can generate a beam of white light. You actually can. It sets the grid for this is what I'm intending to create. But that doesn't always mean that's what happens. There are certain things, by understanding the structure that you're dealing with and understanding the DNA and working with exercises that hit the morphogenetic field and make those links happen stronger, that will allow that pillar of light that protects you to be created. Using some of the tactics that healers are learning to do, a lot of it's done through channeling. They're learning technique through channeling. They're beginning to get fourth strand activation. They're beginning to contact higher dimensional consciousness. First of all, when you're channeling, that's a great thing, but you need to know what you're channeling. There's not too many manuals out there on that. Not down here. Something can say, I'm your higher self. Anything can say, I'm your higher self. That doesn't mean it is. This is why we teach with the Tangible Structure program how to energetically make the connections, progressively build the frequency, build the pillar of light. Because then when you get little voices in your head that say, I'm this or I'm that, you can be pretty well assured what they are. Because you've sealed your fields with frequency. You've done a scientific energy mechanic to your field that will make it very difficult for infiltration. When you go to healers, and healers are great, as long as you understand a couple things. One, they are not healing you. They are simply stimulating your own natural healing ability. And if they don't know that, find somebody else. Because if they think they're healing you, they don't understand it yet. So they're just learning. That's okay. But maybe you can explain to them, do you realize that I'm healing you, you're just facilitating the process? Yeah. Another thing is, right now, what is happening, because of the infiltration that's taking place here, of the shadow side, and the big shadow side, the shadow side that has to do with the planet Nibiru, and it has to do with the Dracos, and it has to do with the little gray Zetas and those guys. They are infiltrating the astral bodies of healers. Healers that are trained in using codes especially, things like Reiki and those kind of things, which are basically good systems. They're taking them and they're changing the coding. The people working with the codes don't even know it. They can't tell unless they can go up to oversoul level and look down on it. They won't be able to see it from here or even from D4. Right now, you're better off learning to use certain practices to heal yourselves than going into somebody that you don't know what they're connected to and they don't know what they're connected to. Now, if any of you are practitioners, that's great. You can use these techniques to seal your field, and it'll clear out anything that doesn't belong in there. You can realign it where you have your pure codes. If you're a channel and you've been pulling channeled information, that's great. We're not against that at all. You can clear your channels by using the God Seed meditation. That's the big one, because that aligns you all the way up to the top, to your original imprint, and it'll start to shake loose anything that doesn't fit into that imprint. Be aware that when you go to other people, they may not have made the connection to their God Seed. They may not even know those levels of identity exist. And therefore, they're not really in a position to know if they've been infiltrated or not. If you're in a position to be aware that you need to look for that, you can learn to sense it in the field. Do I feel totally relaxed with this situation? This person's going to put their hands near me or on me and move energy through me. Does that feel like a good thing? If it seems to, go for it. It's probably telling you that they're okay. That they may not be using the same paradigm, but they have a connection with their higher light and they're not infiltrated. But if you get some weirdness, it can be a couple of things. It can be your own resistance, like, oh gosh, I'm afraid to go to healers. I'm not trying to make you afraid to go to healers. I'm trying to make you wise when you do. Okay? Where you can go in there and really trust your energy to say, is this right for me or is this not right for me? You don't pass judgment on the healer. It's not about that. Another thing that's happening is we're finding relics. There's all sorts of relics. We've got wing makers with, things that were brought from the future being left here and being discovered. We have crystal skulls popping up left, right, and sideways. It seems they're like popping up all over. We have a lot of things, ancient things, resurfacing now. Again, just because it's ancient doesn't mean it's good. Before you go into any type of link your energy field with this object to get this wisdom, speak to the entity of the object. That's not always a great thing to do. First, center in your God Seed. You learn that any of the meditations you learn that one and wear it like a suit of armor. It's the 6th one on the tape, and we've also covered it in one of the other workshops. It will help you to not be affected by any of those influences. Because you're not going to be able to at first tell, what in the world am I walking through? It's like walking through a maze of energy patterns that it's going to take a while to really differentiate. But if you create those field conditions that will help bounce off stuff that doesn't belong there, you'll be okay. And if we learn to open the D4 eyes and learn to do remote viewing and then astral projection, we will even the score on the ones who are trying to use those mind technologies to harm the public. We can ignore that these things are real. Is that going to make them go away? Okay. What's going to make them go away is when they realize it doesn't work anymore. And what's going to make it not work anymore for them is when we get hip to what's going on and say, here, excuse me, you can't do that. I'm astral too. I do D4. They leave people alone that can do D4, and especially those that have integration at the higher levels of identity. So it's just like a little nuisance, really. It can be terrifying if you don't know where the pieces fit. But if you understand, first of all, who you are and your own structure in relation to things, that's why we took you through the whole progression of the pieces of what's going on, the pieces of yourself. At this point, most of the people that have been to the workshops understand they have this structure of identity that belongs to them, it's their heritage they can embody, and all sorts of great stuff will happen as you do that. If you went into finding out about what the negative stuff is without knowing that, you would be terrified. Because from that level, without knowing what you're connected to and the power you have available, it seems totally overwhelming and it could really be devastating. That's why we taught you progressively. All about the light within you, the light outside of you, so you could get to a point of strength and awareness where you could have the presence to face the shadow, transcend its influence, look at it, embrace it, and heal it in yourselves and in society. There's a progression here. First, empowerment, personal empowerment, which is what if you work with what you've learned through the other workshops, you will get that. And progressively, the more you work with it, the more of that you will get. Empowerment through your own spiritual divine connection, your own eternal connection to the universe. You have more power there than anything could ever give you power out here. That's where you put your chips. As far as creating anything that you might want. Security, love, safety, health, all of those things. Are they going to come from out here? They're not. They come from the more and more you align with your higher identity, the more and more things come into harmony out here. The inside is what creates the outside, because the outside is a holographic projection. We're a living hologram down here. It's pretty neat. When you get to the higher levels of consciousness, we really get to feel the reality of that. Because we are much more than what we see in the mirror and what we look at when we see each other. We're huge energy signatures, crystals of consciousness that are aware and alive eternally. We don't see that when we look in the mirror. We kind of miss it. So we're walking around in a hologram down here. And it's a hologram that does have natural laws to it. If we can realize we're in a hologram, we can realize we can pull ourselves out of the hologram, consciousness-wise. That's when you learn to master the hologram. Eventually, these tactics that we're teaching you of integrating self, they will take you to where you can become a master of whatever hologram you're walking around in. We have a long way to go. We're not going to teach you how to bang, manifest worlds overnight, that kind of thing. But we can teach you to first manifest safety and confidence. Confidence that you have right there with you. Nobody has to give it to you. You have power, the wisdom available, because you're connected to this great higher identity. If you don't know it, somebody up there does. Some part of you up there does. All you need to do is find that part. And find that part safely. First, is seal your fields. Use the God Seed exercise. Use some of the other ones that'll bring the frequency in. It's really not that hard to become conscious creators of good things, even in the middle of a mess. Because it's kind of a mess, what's happening here. But it's really in divine right order. There are cycles of negative things and positive things. There are karmic cycles on personal levels and on race levels. What we're moving through here, with the presence of visitors coming from other space-time areas, other dimensions, is a recycling of a karmic issue that we dealt with 200,000 years ago. We've come back around that long. It's expected. And when you get into soul integration and really start to feel that, it doesn't ruffle your feathers so much. You don't feel victimized. Oh, that again. That's back. That's around. Okay, maybe this time we'll get harmonized a little better. Because even if things get weird out here, which they could in the next 10 years, they don't have to for you as an individual. If it gets weird out there, you have the field mechanics to create the highest possible version for yourself. You can create protection for yourself. You can create guidance for yourself. If we go through this series of the next 10 years where these vortices on the planet are opening, and let's say there's some things being done to the grid that really throw it out of balance, that's not going to be pleasant on the physical manifestation level. We're trying to avoid that by some of the work that we're doing. But as an individual, if you are aligned, and you are integrating soul, and you are integrating over soul, and you are putting that first and foremost, because right now it's a survival skill. You put that first and foremost. You will be guided to where you need to be. You will not be given any more experiences than what you chose on the higher level to teach yourself. If they're hard experiences, you need to remember, I chose this to learn something. Nobody's victimizing me here. Nobody's being victimized. This is what we have to get across to ourselves. And it's hard sometimes if your life is falling apart around you, or your house gets wiped out by a tidal wave. It's really hard to not feel victimized. I'm going to be happy about this. Can I teach myself lessons in a better way? But at least if you realize that on the higher levels of your soul awareness and your oversoul awareness, you are creating situations in a hologram in order to get yourself to a higher level of reaction, to where you don't react, you choose to act. Most people that don't do spiritual integration, they get into reaction, which is disempowering because they never get into action. They're too busy reacting to everything. If we can learn the basic discipline to learn to modulate our fields, whatever's coming our way, be it grand and great or really messy, we will have the fortitude, the strength, the spiritual connection to feel the power that will sustain us through it. And you'll get the personal guidance of where to be and what to do with your loved ones. It's as simple as that. That's why we stress the spiritual. They're not going to solve it with trying to build things to go hide on the moon, which is what some of the secret government guys are trying to figure out how to do. Like, we have places up there we can actually go hide there if things go really bad on the planet. Good luck. Yeah, it's bad here. Watch what happens up there. So, spirituality is the answer to the shadow. But spirituality doesn't mean some rigid religion that's going to make you feel bad about yourself and tell you that God is outside of you. You know, it's funny, when people say, oh, that's blasphemy to talk about God and all those kind of things like you do. So the ultimate blasphemy is anybody that tells anybody else that they are separate from God, because that is a lie. That is an out-and-out lie. So all those belief systems are for years. Now, they don't even know where it started. You know, the priests and all those people, they're good people. They're trying to serve God. The God they've been taught exists the way it exists. They don't even know where this paradigm started. They don't know who gave it to them. They'd be really, really surprised to find out that a lot of it was given to us by the Anunnaki, taking original teachings of truth, twisting them, so we would do things the way they wanted. The Anunnaki are a Syrian ET strain. I think a lot of the people involved with Christianity or with Judaism or with any of them, it affects all of the religions at this point. There's been contamination in all of the teachings. If they realized that they were doing certain things and inflicting certain things on themselves and other people because some ETs came down and wanted to mess with us, they wouldn't believe so much either anymore. And it may take, literally, ETs coming down out of the sky saying, hello guys, yeah, we did it. Boy, is that going to make some changes in some major world religions. That's going to be a rude awakening. If we can awaken to it in ourselves, that's good. We simply need to know we are always, always connected to Source. We exist within Source. You can call Source Source, you can call Source God, you can call it anything you want. All it is universal consciousness. There's lots and lots of words for it, and none of them will sum it up totally. So it really doesn't matter which you pick. You can call it Shu if you wanted to. It doesn't care. But knowing that that power exists and that you are a living, breathing expression of that identity and that intelligence and that power will give you the strength you need to move through any possible thing that comes up. For the people that you might know that are in the New Age movement, and they're practicing different tactics and those kind of things, you can be a healing force to them by helping them. Teach them the God Seed exercise. Teach them that, you know, there's this structure of identity. Do you know how higher fields are sealed? Then they say, well, you know, Archangel Michael is fixing it for me. Ask them, well, that's good, but isn't that giving your power completely away to somebody else? Don't you think it might be better if you knew how to fix it too, so you could make sure that Archangel Michael was doing a really good job? Try to help them understand that we all know some pieces of things, and none of us have the whole picture. Some of us have more than others. It's not a competition thing for who knows more. But if they don't know that they have a 15-dimensional structure, a bioenergetic field to deal with, they're not going to know a lot about how to seal that field. So they're not going to know a lot about what's coming through that field unless they're very lucky and have an avatar contract where the energy is naturally sent down through the gene code. Not too many of those on planet. So most people are playing with fire if they don't know how to protect the fields. Spread the word to them. Reach out to them, help them understand. But hey, you know, your work can increase it greatly. It can go even higher if you learn how to connect to the highest of things, which is your direct connection to Source, the God Seed, the place you originally individuated from. So take that word out. I would appreciate it. And so would the universe. And so would a lot of light workers. Because you might be able to help them protect themselves from being infiltrated on the astral level. One big thing that's happening right now is called body snatching. Anybody remember the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Well, they don't roam in pods. It's not like in the movie. But this is something a lot of people aren't aware of, and they really need to be, especially the healers. Because the healers usually have the D4 sight, or higher, developed where they can start to look for this stuff. And if you look for it, you can find the indications. There are different levels of being, some of them from the fourth dimension. Most of them are coming from D6, 7, 8, and 9. They're the bigger guys up there that are affiliated with the draconian matrix. They're not evil, we don't use those terms, but they're not aligned with the light right now. They're the ones that are trying. There is an invasion attempt going on here. They want control of the portals, stargates of Amenti, for their own purposes. This happened 200,000 years ago. It happens every time The portal's open, and they haven't opened in 210,216 years. So why is it happening now? That's why the stargates are opening again. What that means is the dimensional blend is occurring, where things that are usually separate are not as separate anymore. And the veils between dimensional bands and harmonics become much thinner. So all sorts of things can enter and leave much faster and much without any resistance. Certain groups within the draconian matrix want possession of those stargates. They don't care much about humans. They're not oriented to feeling. They're oriented to power, and that's about all. They are using, now from D5 to D4, you can look down on a human, and it looks like an energy field. When you look at the capsule that surrounds the D123, the not-a-movable body level of the person, you can see if there's holes. Sometimes it'll be real strong, it'll be a real strong capsule around it. And it's like, oh, can't grab that one. But other ones, there'll be holes in it. If there's holes in the not-a-movable body, in the D123 level of your auric field, I'm going to pull up a little higher and check out the astral level. Because most of them that enter from higher spaces have to enter down through the astral. So if your astral body is protected, they can't get through to your physical body. They will see holes there. Now, holes in the astral body come from all sorts of things. Being sick for a week or two can do it. Being sick for a day can do it. You can learn to recharge your astral field, to seal your bubble back in where it's supposed to be, to make sure nothing is going to permeate it. The best way to do it is align it with the higher frequencies from 15 on down, from your Rishi on down. Align it with the God Seed from the energy matrix on down. That will fortify your astral field. People who have experimented with drugs in the past usually have very messy astral fields. People who have unfortunately had to go on prescription medications usually have very messy astral fields. Because these things change the morphogenetic field, which makes weaknesses in certain spots. So those type of things leave you very vulnerable. Only vulnerable if you don't know it's there and don't know what to do about it. Again, the program we teach is so simple. Those exercises, those simple ones, the primary 6, that are like, they're not the end, they're only the beginning. There's all sorts of real sophisticated stuff you can learn to do, like manifesting and stuff. But right now, the first thing is learning to protect yourself and learning to open yourself through full alignment. That's what they teach you. You can fix the astral body. You can reinforce it by using the God Seed exercise, by using the 5th dimensional archetype exercise that's in the program. It's very, very much worth it. So again, you can be aware body snatching's going on. You can work with yourself enough to know you don't have to be frightened that it's going to be you. Then, you can, because you know what's going on, become a healing force for those who have it going on. And the number of those is going to increase from what I've been told. There's going to be a lot of those popping up where, as the vibration rises on the planet, certain things of darker consciousness that are already lashed into people's energy fields, people don't know they're there. They can direct them here through the emotional impulses and stuff all along, but they don't know they're there. If your body starts to vibrate too high, it makes it very uncomfortable for them. That's when they start to fight for your body. That's when you start to get a lot of real conflict. Yeah. You may see people go through this. You may see people act as if there's multiple people in there. You're one person one day, another person another day. How many are there in there? And psychology will look at this and say, split personality syndrome. Bipolar disorder, perhaps. Those kind of things. It will exhibit itself as some of those traits, yes. Will that be the cause? Just chemical imbalance? I love this in psychology because, yes, most of these things can be traced to chemical imbalance. Did they ever stop to think of where the chemical imbalances come from? They come from the morphogenetic field problems. That's where they come from. The morphogenetic field manifests the chemical balances. The morphogenetic field, part of which is your astral body, will directly affect your brain chemistry and the function of your brain. So again, psychology is going to be something we all wish we could lean on. We have a choice. Are we going to be three-dimensional and deal with a multidimensional problem in a three-dimensional scale? Or are we going to be smart and say, we're dealing with a multidimensional problem here, we're entering a stellar activation cycle, we're going to deal with it in a multidimensional framework. That may mean having to do something really weird, which is real popular these days, admit that there's something called possession. It happens. It used to happen more in the old days, when the portals were more open, and when people's consciousness was a little more flexible. There were times when people were taught, using their belief paradigms, were taught to move into the astral spaces. And boy, they found out. They knew there were things of the light and things not of the light there. They learned to handle themselves in that. Some of those they that I talk about were us in other incarnations, so somewhere in our cellular record we do know how to deal with this. In the paradigm we've been raised with, excuse me,
And sorry, just want to ask a question. If someone, or you know someone who's, say, health or brain, or they've started premature aging, any of those things that can be affected by some of the things you mentioned, if they've already had that happen to them, how can these exercises, or what can they do to shift that and get back
to restore health when something has gone wrong. Well, when you work with, especially the God Seed exercise, because that connects you right through the time matrix and up into your original pulse that you were created through, that will begin to reharmonize the whole set of Huva bodies going down, which will begin the process of trying to restore the body to its original pattern of wholeness and of healing. So it will help. All of those will help. Later we're going to be given, they told me I'm going to be given sets of tapes for specific types of problems in the body or in the consciousness that will help to heal. There's a healing series of tapes that are coming. So they would be more specific, using very specific signal codes for very specific aspects that need to be healed. Okay? But, okay. I'm going to save questions, though, for later, because you get me off track and then I go down another road. Anyway. Okay. We're going to go in for a moment to the dark here. Okay? Just the shadows, actually. Round up on the secret government. Now, this, if you'll notice, elements is the first section here. You have it in your chart backs. There's a lot of elements to this. It goes everywhere from political conspiracies for world dominion that involve humans, all the way down into ETs, intruder ETs coming in here, making agreements with our government. This is stuff that I don't have to go through with a fine-tooth comb with you, because I imagine if you're sitting here, you've probably heard of a lot of it already. Am I correct? Because most people heard about Montauk, the Philadelphia experiment, the fact that the government signed treaties with ETs, this kind of stuff. Nobody is new to that, right? Oh, good. It saves me a lot. Yeah, trilateral. The Trilateral Commission, yeah, the NSA, I mean, all this stuff. World Management Team, whatever you want to call them, they're collective. There's a couple things, a couple details. I'm going to take my coat off here because I'm dying of heat. There's a couple details I want to add to what's going on with these guys. I need help getting undressed because I'm wired. Yeah, that's good. Rewired, there we go. Okay. There are some things going on that I don't even think the Montauk boys know about. And they're things that will affect us right now. I introduced some of this last night in the private thing we had for the people who have been ordained. And I have a feeling it's all you again. I think it's mostly all the same people that come, which shows me that this is the group from New York that we're related up on higher levels. We were all kind of brought together by our own higher souls and our oversouls, guiding us into the information we needed from Fu. So I guess this is who's supposed to be here. But there are things going on. I'm going to sit down for a minute. There are things going on with the secret government that are happening now that involve ETs. The general plot that's going on is that there is an attempt to take over stargates that are opening for the first time in 200,000 years that humanity has not known exist for many thousands of years. In ancient days, they used to know about them. There are forces coming here that our government, since the 1930s, has played ball with because they assumed that they could get something from it. They wanted technology, weapons technology, because in the end of the 30s, they were going into the World War, and they wanted the advantage. They made treaties, first of all, with these little gray things. They're called Zeta Reticuli, and actually it's not what they're called, but that's what everybody calls them because it's basically the system that they come out of, the star system, planetary system of Orion. They're just little pawns. Most of them are clones. They come out of a race strain called the Zephelium. The Zephelium are bigger And actually, when they're in their natural form, they're of a semi-etheric nature, and they're about 12 to 15 feet tall. They're major, big guys. And they have blue skin. And they have very strange head configurations with a lot of like bone structure coming over here and like up this way. What they do to interact with Earth is they have cloned their pattern into a lower carbon-based life form. So they have little versions of that running around. These are the ones that control the little gray guys. And there's several other castes in between. They have like a scientist caste that deals specifically with, very heavy sciences, they're very scientific type of culture. They have other ones that are more medical healing oriented rather than science. Science gets into like portal mechanics and those kind of things, and healing gets into the bodies and how to manipulate them. These were the original ones that our government got involved with in the late 30s and then made treaties with in the 40s, with the formation of the group called MJ-12, Majestic 12, which is like Majestic Mini at this point. What they didn't realize was they were getting into an intergalactic conflict that was about to erupt. They figured, these guys are like, they're smarter than us, we can get some stuff off them, but they're still pretty controllable. They made agreements. They said, yes, you can abduct our citizens, just make sure they don't remember anything and put them back. And most of the people got put back, except the ones that they blew up accidentally when they were trying to take them up with spaceships before they realized the differences in the gene codes and which ones could do it and which ones couldn't. Some of our missing people will be missing for a long time. The government was okay with this. The United States government was okay with this. That's not okay with me. I don't know about you, but it made me feel really sold out. Especially me, because since I was 4, I was being abducted by the nasties. And I got rescued when I was 7 by the Guardian Alliance. And if it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't be here talking to you now. There are a lot of people out there that actually have abduction memories buried. What they do to bury the memory is they crush the part of the morphogenetic field that goes with the DNA strand that would hold that memory. Makes it not existent in the body. Sometimes the memory's still in there. It just needs to be plugged back in. And that's where you have people 25 years later starting to remember childhood encounters with weird things, those kind of things. When you hear about ET abductees and contactees, these are not a bunch of flakes that are hallucinating. They're not having sleep apnea. I think they're trying to stuff it in that category now. Well, excuse me, I was not asleep when I was 4 years old in broad daylight playing in my driveway. I was chasing ants around with a stick when it came up behind me. I was not sleeping. There are many, many others that are not sleeping when these things occur. Some are, because that's the easiest way to get us. Some of the guardian groups actually get involved with us in the evening. From the time that I was 7 to the time I was 18, I was taken so many different times that I couldn't even keep count how many times. It wouldn't be how many times a year, it'd be how many times a week. Because I had the negative ones trying to harm me and make sure we didn't get this gene code activated so we could read the matrices like this gene code is able to do. And there were the guardians who knew who I was coming in and had to make sure they could get the body and the gene code activated enough so they were protected. So one group would take me to mess me up, the other would take me to fix me. So some of us will be contactees in this audience. Some may be abductees. I don't get a lot of that from the energy signature here. I do get quite a few contactees, which means you're dealing with the good guys. You're dealing with ones who knew you on the soul levels, who are interacting on behalf of your own soul contracts to help enhance your gene code enough and fast enough to get you where you can hold the awareness you were intended to hold when you chose to come here. So a lot of things that are called abductions, which has a negative connotation, aren't really abductions. Some of them are simply contact that you did agree to before you came in, that you just forgot when the veils of the DNA went down. When you see people out there talking about this stuff, they're not wacky. It's really happening. And it goes right back to what the government, our government and several others. From what I hear, it was France, Britain, China, USSR. They were the primary players. I think Brazil also featured in there. So at this point, just about everybody has representatives in on the game. There's not too many in the top secret levels of the governments that don't know some of what's going on. It was fine while we just dealt with the Zetas. Okay? They're relatively controllable, or at least our governments thought they were relatively controllable. What they did not bargain on was the Dracos getting involved. The Dracos are a race of beings that are not quite semi-etheric. They're kind of stuck between dimension 3 and dimension 4. So they're more physical than a semi-etheric being from harmonic 2 would be, but they have properties of shape-shifting that your average human can't do right now until they activate higher DNA stuff. These guys were originally out of a race called the Draconians, which were a reptilian race from the Orion star system, a very ancient seed reptilian race. Now, not all the reptiles are bad, and really nobody's bad. It's just who is carrying ascension codes and the consciousness of at one minute and who isn't, is what it all comes down to. The Draconian matrix, a long time ago, removed itself from grace for a while. It's teaching itself lessons, because it's all really about just teaching yourself here, no matter how hard the conflict seems. But they became severed from source. They came here about 1 million years ago, and they forced themselves on the evolving human females that were here, and they crossbred with them. And it was very painful. There are still many cellular imprints that are stored way, way deep down in the cellular memory that have to do with this time period, because some of us were there. Some of us were incarnations in those women. What was created through this basic rape of one species by another were a hybrid strain that were called the Dracos. They were created on Earth, and through certain interstellar conflicts that have taken place various times since that 1 million years ago when they were created here, they were kicked off the planet by higher guardian races. Most of them were shipped off to Nibiru, some of them back to Orion. They have always felt this was their home. They were created here. We were created on Terra, which is this place in harmonic 2. This is their territory. That is a very deep, deep conviction within the Draconian mind. And sharing is not one of the things they're routinely taught. When there's an opportunity to infiltrate this place, which there is now because of the Stargate cycle, usually there's too much security here as far as direct infiltration. They don't want to start Star Wars because they probably won't win. But they have a lot of help now. The ones from Nibiru are joining forces, and not just the Dracos. I'll talk about the Nibiru ones in a little bit. But what happened? In the 1980s, as this drama was unfolding with the government and the Zetas, the Dracos got involved with the Zetas and said, hey, why don't we join forces? We agree. Why don't we get control of the place? And then we'll create it the way we want it here. It was decided that we would be a good resource to use. One thing they did not want to happen was the DNA to begin plugging in, because then we'd be multidimensional, and then they wouldn't be able to use us or misuse us. So there was an alliance formed between the Zetas and the Dracos, between the lizards and the semi-lizards, if you want to look at it that way. The little gray mutant things and their bosses that are blue, and the lizards that come in various forms. The Dracos look like human shapes, the body shape, but it's scaly. It has a scaly type skin, and they range from anywhere from like a greenish to a yellowish, almost human-y color. And their faces, they usually shapeshift, because if they would terrify you. They're approaching people and saying, we're the good guys, we're here to help clean up your planet. Of course, they want to clean, you clean an apartment when you move into it, you want a nice clean house, you'd rather somebody else do it for you. Yeah, they're helping with environmental protection and save the rainforests and all that. They're planning to move in. These guys are very interesting because of their shape-shifting abilities. They can do two things. They can consolidate their consciousness and do astral invasion and take over somebody's astral body and absorb and integrate their personality like a Borg. You know, that Star Wars, that show on TV where they have the Borg. Well, they can do that. They can also appear for short periods as human. They can make their faces shift and their forms shift where they look like standard humans. But there's a limit on that. So it's much more interesting for them to take over a body, because then they don't have to worry about shape-shifting it. They just shape-shift themselves into consciousness, move it in, take it over, and it's theirs. There are reports coming from some strange places in the UFO groups and all of that, where people are seeing people they thought they knew turn around, look at them, and all of a sudden they look like a lizard, and then they turn back again and it's them again. They don't know what's going on. And it's not me, I didn't invent this, you know. I basically asked, when I heard the first report of it, and I said, oh my God, I saw something like that once, and I didn't know what it was. I said, all right, Enoch, anybody out there want to tell me what's going on? And they did. Body snatching is going on. Things got more serious here when the Dracos got involved with the Zeta. If that wasn't bad enough. Now that it's absolutely certain that the stargates of Amenti are going to open, the Nibiru matrix is interested. Now Nibiru is really the 12th planet. It's on an orbit that moves through D3, then up into D3, D4, 5, and 6, goes up into the Sirius star system and back down again. That is, I believe, a 3,657.8-year retrograde elliptical orbit that runs up through and back down again. There's some interesting stories that it's coming back. It's due for its pass now. It was here in 18 BC. There are records in the Roman information that the passage of this particular thing, I think they might have considered like a comet or something like that. There's a little hijacking of a concept going on. Yeah, Nibiru's going to come back, but it's going to be back in for over 1,600 years. Something's coming in, and the ones from Nibiru are starting to introduce it. There are channels coming out now in the New Age movement. We're from Nibiru. We're representatives of the Nibiru Council. This kind of thing. Great, if you know what the council is. First of all, they're ones that will do body snatching. They'll integrate the personality. And yes, they will be local representatives of Nibiru. The ones from Nibiru come in several different race streams. There are the Nephilim that were a combination between Anunnaki and humans in the first or second seeding of the races here many, many thousands of years ago. They dominated the humans, and they misused them. And they carried distortions. They didn't carry the ascension codes. They could hold an avatar consciousness, but they didn't carry the full codes of ascension or the consciousness that comes with alignment, because they were crossed with the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki race strains, they're Syrian, and they are a mutated version of a different founding Syrian race. So the Nephilim, they were giants compared to us, were here for a while, and they got kicked off by guardian groups because they were going to decimate our evolution, and that wasn't going to be allowed. Most of them were sent to Nibiru. Others went through other places in the galaxy, but there's a big concentration of them there. It's kind of like, yeah, you can have this place, just stay off that one. Evolve yourselves, but you're not going to mess with the humans anymore. So this was long ago. They were kicked out of here. They weren't happy about being kicked out of here. What their real concern is not Earth. It's the stargates that Earth houses, because it leads to the stargates in Orion and Mintaka. The stargates in Orion and Mintaka are key to entering other time matrices. So if you want to take over things and suck energy off systems, one system is really like, it's only one. What if we drain all the energy out of that, There's real motivation to go finding the others. And that's what the ones from Nibiru really want to do. Their interest here is creating, like they always have, certain groups of race strains that are really hybrids. There are portions of our populations that are directly connected, and some of us carry coding that are almost fully connected to the Nibiru matrix. It doesn't make us bad. It just makes our gene code easier to evade a little. Easier from the impulse, easier for them to move their consciousness through. When we begin working with the tangible structure of soul programs, we will be able to begin blocking those genetic vulnerabilities. First, I'm going to finish telling you about the drama, basic drama that's going on. The ones from Nibiru are coming back, talking through channels at this point. They're walking in and all sorts of neat stuff. What they would like to see happen is getting us to a point where things get real rough down here. Then they come in as saviors. And you know what? They don't look like they used to. They used to have a very Anunnaki look to them, where they had dark coloring.
They had the darker hair and the darker eyes and light skin. They took over Procyon a while back, since a million years ago or so. On Procyon, there was a race of human type beings that were Lyran Syrians. They were blondes. They were Nordics. They had the almost pure white coloring. There was just the coating, came out that way. They were good guys. They raided that civilization, just like they're trying to do here. They did the body snatching. They infiltrated the culture, and they mutated themselves and that race strain into a new version of something. They got higher coding genetically from integrating with this other species. But they also made it so that species no longer even exists as it originally was. They changed the general coding in so many members of that species, it shifted the whole morphogenetic field for the species, which is like the 100th monkey syndrome. Eventually the pattern picks up and it goes and fractalizes itself all through the whole matrix. It's all hologram. So they basically shifted that species into something it was not originally intended to be. Now they're prettier. They have the very high cheekbones usually, and they have platinum blonde hair, many of them, at least the ones they like to send on, to meet you. They claim they're from the Pleiades. They claim that Nibiru is a Pleiadian planet. This is news. There's a lot of contact happening from the Pleiades right now, and you have to be able to tell the difference between which ones are fake ones from Nibiru and which ones are really Pleiadians. There are Pleiadians that look like the Nordics. So you've got people running, you don't know who's running around in what bodies at this point. It's very hard to tell. This again, by building in your field, the safety thing, you will get of what's behind in that energy signature, and you'll learn to trust that field. It's like, well, I'm out of here, that's not something I'm going to deal with, or yeah, I'll deal with this one. It's all in dealing with the field resonance. If you want to learn to tell the difference, you got to learn to close the eyes and put your awareness in your field and move it into other fields and feel what that feels like to you. And some things will feel good and some things will not. And you got to learn to trust that, because they can be the most beautiful beings that come down out of the sky. They can be wonderful, godly things. They can manifest things before your eyes. Yeah, they can do this. That's really only a middle level mastery of time, matter, space and stuff. You don't have to be real spiritual to do that stuff. They can deceive you. There's a saying in some religions that the light can deceive, but it's the sound that will always tell the truth. The sound is the vibration. And you can learn to hear it inwardly and to feel it. And whatever it looks like out here may be very different than what you get in the vibrational reading. You'll learn to see with your vibrational senses rather than with the physical eyes. Because anything can be manifested before your eyes, and if you don't know enough to run your energy through its signature, you're not going to be able to tell what's really there. Angels can manifest as devils, devils can manifest as angels, anybody can manifest as your mother that crossed over that you'd love to see. And sometimes your moms do come back and say hi. You have to be able to tell by the feel if it's the real one or not. Now, with a little Nibiru drama, I'm going to get into later in the afternoon. I'm going to let Mark speak a little bit because he knows a lot about one world order. He told me that today, and I was like, oh, neat, because it's not a specialty. I try not to think about the negative stuff too much unless my guys say, yo, you have to deal with this if you want to be effective in your teachings and in helping people to heal themselves and to heal this planet. Okay? But there are aspects of the one world order that are really, really, like right in our face right now, happening right under our noses that we don't even know. The part that's being orchestrated by the government. I'm kind of unique because I have the inside line on the ET agendas. That was because they tried to take over this body when it was in my mother's body. And they imbued the fetus with Zeta coding. They stole the body or tried to. That's what they're trying to do when they start picking it up at 4 years old. They were trying to cultivate it. Well, we stole it back. They tried to body snatch it, we stole it back. But we left a little of the coding in there, just enough where I can run their matrix. I'm a very good spy of the Zeta Draconian matrix because there's a little tiny bit of the coding left that I can activate it and pull information out of their collective consciousness memory matrix.
So I have an inside line on what's going on with the ETs, who's who and what's going on, who you trust, who you don't trust. Other people are specializing in what's going on the outside. So it might be interesting to hear a little bit about what Mark Darling has to say here on the New World Order. And as we progress through our thing, we're going to round it up. In fact, I'll round it up now, real quick, before Mark goes on. The two main things that the light and the dark, the light and the shadow have in common are, one, they're dealing with 15-dimensional physics. And they don't really know that they're dealing with 15-dimensional physics. They only know that they're dealing with multiple dimensions. All the stuff that the light workers do, energy work, code work, light, sound, all of that movement, they're all working on morphogenetic mechanics. They're dealing with 15-dimensional physics and chelantic morphogenetic science. When the Montauk guys are making their artificial little time tunnels, they can bob between horizontal lines of time. They're just learning diagonals. Where they can literally learn to teleport things and people. When they do things like mind control, run through the fourth dimensional frequencies, they're doing the same thing the New Agers are doing. They're using the same technologies. They're using 15-dimensional physics and chelantic morphogenetic science. If all these guys are using it, we might as well. But we have an advantage by learning it. We learn where it fits. We learn where things fit within it. Where the other side are just using little pieces of it and they don't see where the pieces fit together yet. So if you can see that within the light and the shadow sides, the fringes on both sides of our culture, we're all really dealing with the same phenomenon, which is the knowledge of multidimensionality and chelantic science starting to come back into our collective consciousness. And that's happening because the fourth DNA strand is beginning to activate. And that memory and information is stored within the astral and higher. And we are moving into the race cycle where we are supposed to activate that information. So again, it may seem weird out there, but it's all in divine right order. I keep trying to remind myself of that when I'm looking at all the agendas and stuff. There is a higher order. We just need to align ourselves with what that is, and then we can see what it is. And you no longer look at, oh great, some ETs are trying to invade us here, terrific. We're not going to go into a panic like they did when they put that radio show on in the 50s. Yeah. Oh guys, calm down. It was only a joke. Well, this isn't a joke. But we don't have to act like that. We're not disempowered. It's only when people are programmed into a little tiny mindset. And a lot of people right now out there are not any better than people were in the 50s. Oh, it's just 3D life. I do my work, I do my job, I go to the bar and have a beer, I watch TV when I come home, I have my wife, my kids, my dog, my mortgage. I have to die and pay taxes. That's the only thing I have to worry about. These are the people that if they start seeing things flying through the sky, it's going to be a repeat of what happened with that radio show, but on a big level. And my thing is, you don't have to be a part of that. You can be a healing influence in that. Now, I don't know what Mark has to share with us. This is going to be news to me, so I'm going to sit kind of with you and listen to this on the New World Order and how it may be manifesting here. You want to do lunch? How long are you already? Well, can we have Mark go on first? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. We'll do lunch real soon, okay? About 1 o'clock, okay? It's 10 up? Okay? 10 up, yeah, okay? Somebody's hungry. So we'll hear a little bit on the One World Order and Mark's expertise in this, because I don't follow it on the little aspects as far as how it's manifesting right here, right now. I trace the lines back into the family lines that have evolved from ET family lines that are actually part of Illuminati families that are forming this One World Order. So he has more of the specifics on how it's affecting us right now. This is Mark Darling on the One World Order.
Yes, as you've all heard from a popular TV show, the truth is out there. What we're trying...
Like Mulder.
Yes. Excellent. What we're learning in the seminar is the truth is in there. And it's always people who have an agenda try to have you focus on the outside and make you feel needy. That's the main agenda of New World Order, because those are people on the planet who are greedy. they're so greedy they want it all. They want all the property, the rights, the money, and and the whole planet, as we're learning. But these black musicians, I'm going to show you how there's a big trick that these black musicians use. And have you ever seen the TV show where you saw a magician pull a rabbit out of a hat and make a pretty woman disappear, and you want to know how they do that? Right? You ever ask yourself, well, New World Order is appearing right now in your wallets. You may or may not even know about it. And I'm going to show you how they do this magician's trick. Anyone have a $1 bill here? You all do. Pull it out. I want to show you right on the $1 bill. New World Order is happening.
These visuals, you don't have to read them, just kind of look at the concept and apply it to the world order that he's talking about.
Everyone got a $1 bill?
Yeah.
Is this money?
No.
It's not money. You're being lied to. You're being manipulated. You're being ripped off. If you look at the top 3 words of that note, it says Federal Reserve Note. Each word there is a lie. It's a fraud. It's 3 times fraudulent and constitutionally counterfeit. Did they teach you this in school? No. That's on purpose. School books have been rewritten by the Rockefeller Foundation. I myself got little newsletters when I was a kid saying, perfect, New World Order, one world government is coming. Stay tuned. The first word on that note, federal, is a lie, because the private bank that had this note printed is no more private than Federal Express. Federal Express is a private company. You can prove it to yourself in the New York business white pages for private businesses. Look up the Federal Reserve Bank. You'll find it there, not far from Federal Express. Same book you find IBM and Xerox. You'll find them in there. You will not find them in the government blue pages because they're not government, and you thought they were government. We're opening your eyes at this seminar. It's against the Constitution. It's high treason by your congressmen, senators, and the Secretary of the Treasury. Because in the Constitution, the highest law of the land, it says, quote, only Congress shall have the power to coin money and regulate the value thereof and set the standard for weights and measures. And no state should use anything but gold and silver as a method of payment of debt. Okay? Does that piece of paper measure gold or silver? No. The second word, reserve, is a lie because there's no gold or silver used to back up that note. The gold that you thought that was in Fort Knox, the private bankers have it now. The Federal Reserve Bank is owned by 12 families, including 12 international banking families, including the Rockefeller family. Ring a bell? Wonder why they got so rich? Rothschilds of Europe, J.P. Morgan, etc. There's many books written on this subject, but I'm just going to do a quick recap.
They're connected to Harvard University. Yeah.
So there's no gold or silver used to back up that note anymore. The word note is also a lie because a real bank note has terms on it. When you go down to a bank and say, can I take out a loan, pretty please? They'll give an application with terms on it, like when you're going to pay back, what interest rate you're going to pay. Those are terms. If you look on your $1 bill, are there any terms on that on there? No? So it's 1, 2, 3 times fraudulent. Constitutionally counterfeit because by the 1792 Coinage Act, the dollar was defined as a unit of measurement of silver or gold. Not paper, folks. The dollar is defined as 86% of an ounce of silver as a dollar. Anyone ever remember silver dollars? Okay. They look like this. Okay? Nowadays, you can go to a coin store and get a silver dollar. They'll charge you quite a few Federal Reserve notes for it. You can get a lately minted silver eagle, which is a full ounce of silver. Okay? See, this is actual wealth. This is evidence of wealth. The piece of paper you have in your hand is evidence of debt. The consumer price index, or inflation, was flat in this country. From like 1800 all the way up to about 1913, flat. Prices didn't go up. Why? Because it was based on something tangible like gold and silver. We had a little bump around the Civil War because we had to borrow. There's some problems there. But it wasn't until the debt virus was introduced in this country by the privately owned Federal Reserve Bank. Up until the 20s, you could take 20 silver dollars and trade them in for a gold ounce. They had St. Gaudens pieces that look something like this. This is a full ounce of gold. Okay? And up to about 1933, 20 silver dollars to get you one of these. Now it'll take you over 300 Federal Reserve notes. See what I'm talking about?
Next question. Are you basically saying that since they instrumented paper money, they have been literally lying to us? They took any value, anything of worth that we really had, made us believe that this little piece of paper had value, got us to build a system of economic exchange on it, when actually they're the ones that took any of the real wealth that exists as far as tangible substance. And we're all running around playing games with a piece of paper. That when it comes down to it, all they have to do is say, oops, that design on a piece of paper doesn't count anymore.
Leave me alone.
Just like they did when with the North and the South, when the Civil War. So is this what you're trying to say here? I don't
Yes.
look at money this way. This is wild.
You're just writing about this today.
Yeah,
I need a moment to. I have a piece of paper that was actually printed by the government, okay? And read the bottom line. What does it say? $10?
Yeah, $10 in gold coin payable to the bearer on demand.
Can you do that today, folks?
No.
What does this note say?
Cool. I get it. It took me a minute there, but I got that. That you were supposed to be able to demand the substance for it.
Yes.
These were like no's. You know, this is like rude awakening to me here. I didn't see the earthly part of this going down. Okay. This one says $5 in silver payable to the bearer on demand.
What is at the top?
$5.
At the top.
At the top,
Does it say
silver certificate.
Thank you. Okay.
What year?
This one was, where's the, I can read that tiny. Series of 1934.
Thank you.
We also made them in the 50s.
Hey, now hold it up so I can take a picture of it.
Now it just says, this note is legal tender for all debts public and private. Legal tender is an IOU, folks. If I want to buy a car from you and I scribble on a napkin IOU, $20, would you take that unsecured napkin? No. Unsecured note? It's just an IOU. Okay? How this happened was, on December 23rd of 1913, when 98% of Congress was home on Christmas vacation, there were a few Democrats around in the pockets of the banksters who paid them, big amounts of reserve notes. They passed a law called the Federal Reserve Banking Act, which was high treason because Congress does not have the authority to do that. But in this alleged treasonous law, they gave a private company the right to issue paper money and control it. And they got Woodrow Wilson to sign it, which he later regretted big time. Question?
What was it called? What banking act was that called?
Federal Reserve Banking Act of 1913 passed on December 23rd when everyone was home on Christmas vacation. Just a handful. I mean, if I could count on one hand, that'd be a lot. Okay? What they did is the Federal Reserve, privately owned, started printing notes that says, this note is legal tender for all debts public and private and is redeemable in lawful money. Well, lawful money, by Title 12, Sections 152 says, lawful money in the United States shall be construed to be gold and silver coin. So even the Founding Fathers knew that real money has to have that intrinsic value of gold and silver, because even governments can't come and go. And they didn't want it to be controlled by inflation. Because in this country, in the 1770s, we were being ripped off by the King of England through his bank, the Bank of England. The King made a law, the colonies could not borrow except from the Bank of England. The Bank of England only gave them notes. You see? Only notes, not anything tangible. And then that Bank of England had the nerve to charge interest that's never created, so it is impossible to pay back. It's a game of economic musical chairs, otherwise known as economic warfare. Nowadays, we also have psychological warfare, and I'll take the definition from George Orwell's 1984. People can have their rights and their freedoms taken away from them without people even realizing it, by changing the meaning of words. Do you think they changed the meaning of the word dollar? That's economic and psychological warfare. New World Order also passed a law through Congress, unconstitutionally, called an income tax law. The
Jail, if you don't pay me what I demand you to pay me because I'm bigger than you and I'll take your freedom.
The Constitution of the United States of America forbids an income tax. The Constitution says, quote, there should be no capitation or any other direct tax. And you got your Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. I advise you to read those. Fifth Amendment says you don't have to give any information that you could be used to against you in a court of law, like the IRS does all the time. In fact, a fellow by the name of Trojan took the IRS to court and won based on his Fifth Amendment rights. Fourth Amendment, government cannot take anything away from you without due compensation. 13th Amendment, there should be no involuntary slavery. Well, if you don't own your job, then you're a slave. You'll be turning into robots. So the whole reason that we're here on the planet is to help with the robots' rebellion. In fact, there's a book written on that by David Icke. In fact, you're being lied to because I, as a human being, don't have income. So how can I be taxed about it? Income is a corporate tax. I'm not a corporation. I got the Supreme Court cites to say just that. That compensation for labor is what human beings do, or wages, is a natural right. Just like the Bill of Rights, they come from your creator and cannot be taxed. But it's all this lies and manipulation, psychological and economic warfare that has been done on the planet. New World Order, through one of their buddies, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. In fact, there was another Delano that was a chairman of the Federal Reserve Board and an earlier version of Greenspan. You see the connection, folks? Franklin Delano Roosevelt made gold illegal to own and had it confiscated so he could give it to the New World Order bankers. That was in 1913. Violation.
They just went in and took the substance.
They made gold illegal to own and passed out notes, which are no longer redeemable in gold. That's why this gold certificate is only 1928. And then later, they asked President Kennedy to take the silver out of the coins. He said, sorry, I swear to the Constitution, can't do that. And then Kennedy issued 5 million of these notes. Would you read the top of that?
United States note, the United States of America,
The date?
1963.
President Kennedy knew the problem that's being discussed here today. Through Executive Order 11110, had 5 billion United States notes printed up. You think New World Order saw that as a problem? These notes were issued in November 1963. Right in this very city, President Kennedy gave a speech at Columbia saying, I've discovered a plot to compromise the high office of the presidency. And before I leave office, I promise to tell you all about it. That sealed his fate. Yes, New World Order saw him as a problem. Hired some problem eliminators. Talked to the buddies in the CIA. And they talked to their buddies in the organized crime, who had a problem with Robert Kennedy in those days as well. And the rest is history. For details, see the movie JFK that shows, Oswald couldn't have done it. Best assassination money can buy complete with a scapegoat. And we've had some modern ones today, like Oklahoma City building as a whole, et cetera, et cetera. But you see the agenda. They create a problem. They offer solutions because now we're under duress that we wouldn't have otherwise chose, and kind of herd us like cattle toward their world over there. But folks, we're waking up. So the leader of the IRS himself, Sean Rossetti, and I've seen this in the newspapers, he proudly proclaims that the IRS has an 80% voluntary compliance rate. Keyword is voluntary, because in any dictionary, voluntary means you don't got it. They haven't usurped that word yet, but they're working on it. Especially if you're in the service. And if you take 150 million working people in this country, take 20% who didn't comply with the IRS, it's about 30 million people told the IRS where to go. We're gaining folks on lots of levels. There are shortwave radio programs, magazines, newspapers, websites that go into this further. And later I'll put on the blackboard some of these sites. So I know you're all getting hungry, not just for truth, but for a little physical something. I'll leave you with that and more later. Thank you.
This is excellent. You need to do a workshop too. Thank you. You know what's interesting? Real quick before we run to lunch, I know everybody's like dying to get out of there now. I just wanted to show you just the front covers of some ads. These have been running in Nexus magazine over like last year, I think, last year or two. They show some interesting things. They correspond to one world order. This thing is really interesting. Where? Wait. Okay. This is basically an article about a place that's been created through an agreement that is born in secrecy between the U.S., UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Japan, Korea, and the NATO nations in a peak security agreement. You want to see something neat, what they created? And I was amazed when I saw this article and this picture, because for a number of years, the Guardians have been telling me there's a secret base on the coast of Australia that's connected with electromagnetic pulse technologies that go up through the Bermuda Triangle, down through the Montauk portals, and down through the grid lines that they are using to mess with. And I was like, well, great, like, it's not on any maps, that kind of thing. Well, I kind of take them with a grain of salt and say, well, if you show me, I'll, be able to understand this more. Talk about show me. Here's that place. Right? See these things? Let's put the picture a little bit more so you see the picture thing. This is an establishment. This is a huge complex. A secret facility. That is, where is it exactly? It's Pine Gap, near Alice Springs, Australia. They're creating these huge establishments that are dealing with energy systems that they deny exist. And they're doing it with secret agreements between various interesting governments. Everybody's holding hands with everybody with these things, it seems. And one other interesting thing that I noticed on this, I just caught pieces of this out. The real uses of SDI. Speculating here about what they would be. Right here. Some authors have suggested that the real purpose of this was to protect the Earth from an extraterrestrial invasion. Yet ETs don't exist, and abductees are just hallucinating or having dream problems. This is going on, and the evidence is out here if we look for it. We've got the solution to this, and the things we're learning. I feel very grateful from the Guardian lines, because the one world order you hear about, that Mark has talked about, that many other people are trying to talk about, they're not just conspiracy buffs. They're just not paranoid people who need an outlet for it. They're observing what is taking place. And most of the mainstream people are so brainwashed But by what they read in the papers, see on the television, that, oh, the experts don't agree with that. You know, if the president comes on and tells me, well, then I'll believe it. You know, if it's on like Nightline, then it'll make sense to me. You know, we need to come beyond looking at things through that veil, and we will learn what's going on, how to deal with it. When we come back from lunch, we're going to get into some interesting things. We're going to do an exercise. I was going to do it in the morning, but it's too late. It's not morning anymore. But we're going to do a remote viewing exercise to start stretching our wings as far as playing on the same four-dimensional turf that they're playing on. That will give us equal standing. So we'll do that when we come back. We'll also explore a lot of other things that if you want to see what they are, you can look in the chart pack. We're going to deal with, before this closes, what happened over 200,000 years ago that set this whole mess in motion. Through that, you'll also come to understand who the New World Order people are. Because I'll tell you the secret now, they're ET human hybrid family lines that were started here 200,000 years ago and raised, cultivated, to eventually take over dominion of this planet. They look like humans, they talk like humans. That doesn't really mean they are, but they're part human because they're in human bodies. Which means, if they can be made to understand what's messing with them, even though it might have spawned them, they can find other alternatives to evolve through. They can be brought into the light and saved from the manipulation because they're only puppets to the greater matrices. So we're not separating good humans from bad humans. We're saying, hey, we're all humans. Get this. You guys, look how you're being used. New World Order, you really think you're going to get to control it? Give me a break. Once you set it up, it's going to be taken away from you. And you're going to find out what it's going to be like to do what you're doing to other people. So this is some of the things that we're going to explore. And by the end of the workshop, I hope you'll give you skills, tools, and a good rounded picture of what is taking place as we enter this new millennium. And you will be a very special group of people because not too many people have a clue. They're still fixated on Y2K. Like, why do I care? You know? Yeah, it could cause a little disruption. If it happens, they're doing it on purpose. If it happens in a big way, they're doing it on purpose to enact FEMA so they can get us all under martial law. Okay? So that's the only reason the whole thing was invented in the first place. Possibly we might need that control there. Let this happen. It was not an accident to begin with. It was an opportunity in case it was needed. But there's a lot of other things we need to look at. That's just a little glitch, or a potential little one. And we'll deal with that. But you're not going to leave here today. So, all come back, please, because I'm not going to leave you scared. I'm not going to leave you, oh my God, it's so big and bad. By the time you leave here, your hearts are going to be singing. We're going to show you some technologies. We're going to show you and we're going to ask you to help make a stand that will make a huge difference. That has to do with Egypt. And it has to do with New Year's. Some of you heard this part of this last night. So we're going to round it up with a big dose of empowerment that each one of you can become a leader within your own life, possibly within your community if you want to begin affirmative action as we enter the year 2000 and beyond. Have a great lunch. Biowarfare agents, vaccines, sterilizations, affecting the body without your consent. This is something that big old machine called heart can do. It can not only harness your brain waves within a certain frequency, which is called a frequency fence, which is what we've been talking about for a number of years now as part of the ET technologies. It can also suppress the immune system. It can also mutate the DNA because it uses ultra-low frequency sound patternings that directly go into the morphogenetic field. It is a morphogenetic manipulation machine. Instead of calling it HAARP, let's call it MMM. If we need evidence that it's going on, these kind of things, look at those type of machineries and technologies that are popping up all over the place. That one, they couldn't help but let us know about. They needed our money, because it's hard to build something like that without somebody knowing it's there. The stories we've been fed about what it's for failed to inform us. It had tremendous mind control capacity. Failed to inform us. It had the ability, when directed properly, to target specific areas on the globe and create simulated natural disasters. Target evacuation. You want to clear an area of real estate? Shake it up a little. Wash it over with a tidal wave, that kind of thing. They're playing with these technologies on purpose. It's part of the One World Order, World Dominion program, that we're sitting right in the middle of and being beamed at from every side that this isn't real, only, conspiracy nuts pay any attention to this stuff. I'd rather be a conspiracy nut than be clueless. I would rather say, there's enough people talking about this. There might be something to it. Again, the answers are spiritual, which is the beauty of it all. A lot of the people that would be terrified by all of these things, and the people that are going to be affected most by all of these things, are the people that don't get that. Because they don't understand that spiritual means consciousness, means energy, means the same stuff they're playing with. It's all connected. We're at an advantage because we understand that. We're learning spiritual technologies to combat manual technologies. And the spiritual technologies, because they are higher dimensionally reaching, will always, if they're used appropriately, win the situation. They will harmonize what is going wrong. So we have things like being sabotaged behind our back, not knowing it. Let's see what else I have up there. These are just little quick things I just wanted to scan through. This one. Hidden history of Jesus and the Holy Grail. There's all sorts of stuff coming out now in various veins about the hidden history of our race. Gee, sounds like my thing. What's real interesting is not too many of them go back 560 million years where mine begins. But there are pieces of information, even on the three-dimensional level, coming out that are talking about family lines that are being traced. They're putting together records that were in different languages, from the Dead Sea Scrolls and the whole bit. They're putting things together to show a picture of there are family lines that emanated from the Christ story. The Christ story was a real story, not exactly the way it went down in the books, but it was a thing that happened. There were a few beings actually on the planet that got rolled in to Christ. The important thing about acknowledging the Christ story is something that was actual, not something that was invented by a bunch of religious fanatics who had nothing better to do, was to realize that the beings that got rolled into that story, one of them came in with a full silicate matrix activated. He came in to put that imprint back into the race morphogenetic field because it had been mutated out by the ET manipulation. That's where the whole concept of Christ the Savior came from, okay? He was viewed as a Savior not because he hung on a cross and died, which he did not do. He came back as a being that carried the full 12-strand matrix, activated, went into fetal integration, set it back in our race morphogenetic field, so it was once again a full potential for our race. So in a way, he did save us, in that sense. But being saved is about getting the rest of your codes back. Getting your codes, your heritage. It's not about worshiping a cross with an image of a body hanging on it. This is what a lot of people don't get. I see that and I just shake my head. Do I have reverence for that particular symbol? I respect the people who do. I care about the people who do. Do I share a reverence for that image? No, because I understand more about it. If they remembered what I remembered about the Jesuits, because I had an incarnation there. I was a half-sister of Jesuit 12. He taught me. What I'm teaching you is what he taught me. And it worked. People ascended through this program. When I look at the symbolism of the cross and somebody hanging on it, first of all, I know, they still think Jesus was our hobby and vice versa. Because our hobby was a person who wasn't even an avatar, who the Elohim from Harmonic Universe 3 made a deal with. We'll let you evolve faster, and we'll let you ascend, which you normally wouldn't do. You had more incarnations to do. If you take the heat off Jesuit 9, the other one, the 9th level avatar, because he's getting himself in trouble, and he's going to get himself killed. We're going to get him off to France. But we need somebody who looks enough like him that can pretend he's him. And then the Elohim did a little neat thing to Arahabi. It wasn't exactly as fully conscious, yeah, okay, I'll hang on a cross, no problem. I don't care if I said or not, I'm not going through that. But most people would not agree to that. They gave him some implants, mentally, that made him think that he was Christ the Savior. They gave him the memory records, some of them, of Jeshua 9, so he would spout out state teachings. And then they conveniently got Jeshua 9 and his family lines, Mary Magdalene, parents, and the children, there were 3, out to France. Later, the same incarnational family surfaced within the Cathars, actually, in France, who were conveniently wiped out by the Pope. So there is a history here. It's not just me that talks about the hidden histories of our race. Anybody at this point that accepts, without question, the Darwinian theory for the concept that we came out of apes, they're just missing a lot of information that's out there that's contrary to it at this point. We didn't come out of apes. And the Adam and Eve story is a big simplification of what really went down. It can be used metaphorically, but there was much more than an Adam and Eve and the apple and the serpent and the whole thing. That was a story given to us to help us understand certain things at a level of consciousness that was present at the time. After we do the meditations, I'm going to go into some of the hidden history. Now, in my books, we go back 560 million years. It's like, whoa, that's a long time. And then we bring it up relatively to the present. We show some highlights. But there's a period of time that has tremendously affected what we're dealing with in our gene codes right now. And that was about 200,000 years ago, and what has happened since then. For things happened since that point, and during that point, that drastically digressed our evolutionary path. And they're going to amplify themselves now. We're coming back to the same cycle. And it's going to repeat itself, or it's going to be broken, one or the other. If it repeats itself, it will amplify itself and be worse than it was last time around. So, I'll talk about that a little bit this afternoon when we get into Nibiru and we get into the role that they had in the last 200,000 years of our evolution here. What they did to us, what they'd like to do to us now, and what we're not going to let them do. They're not the big bad guys in the sky. There's actually ones higher that motivate and direct them. When we get into the avatar matrices of consciousness on both sides of dark and light and shadow and everything in between. But the Nibiru beings have had a tremendous effect on our DNA right now and our evolution. There are certain seals, they call them seals, they're frequency blockages or frequencies that were misconstrued on purpose that were put into our morphogenetic field that manifest in the DNA. One of them is called the Palladian seal. It's called the Palladian seal because it was the ones from Nibiru that identified with the Palladian system that put it there in the first place. There was a couple other ones that put it there to try to reverse something they did before. The Palladian seal wasn't done as a mean thing. It wasn't done to purposely do us harm. It was done to hopefully get us out of the mess that the ones who had harmed us had created. But it backfired, and it amplified the whole thing in the gene code and made it 10 times worse. That's where we got our karmic patterns from. That's why we cycle and cycle and cycle till we have no idea what the first point of origin of the karma was. We can't even see the karmic patterns anymore. Karmic pattern, what the heck is that? It just runs spontaneously. We're like a dog on a track running around in circles. Karma has its role if it's used as a learning tool where you can move through something, see it, aha, it worked better this way, you rise above it to the next. We got caught in a time loop with karma. So we'll talk about that a little and how Nibiru began the process, how both the Sirius system and the Palladian system tried to intervene and help, how some of the Nibiruans even tried to help at that point because they knew it was going to affect their evolution. But the most important thing about all of that history is what it did to us, what we can do to undo it. So we'll go into the history a little bit. But first, I'm going to have Marianne Calloway come up, and she's going to, are you ready, Larashi? Great. We're going to go through a centering meditation. It's going to take us into the flame within. And within that flame, she's going to explain more of what it's going to be. But I will add this to it, that this just in. When we get into this flame, the visualizations that will be used, I have been guided here to tell each of you there is a specific message in that flame for each one of you. It may come as words, it may come as a picture, it may come as a memory flash, it may come as simply a direct cognition or a feeling that later you can lean into more and get more from. Enoch, basically, this Enoch, suggests that when you go into the visualization within the flame, try to be aware of that message. And everyone's will be different. It's something specifically for you that is connected directly to your memory matrix and bringing it back online. Because I have a memory open in my being, in my body, that goes back beyond 560 million years. I remember when I entered the time matrix, and we don't even have a time equivalent for when that was. Actually, we're old. My first time, anyway. Actually, I'm a baby this time. I went and came back. But each one of us have this memory. There is a memory of when you entered the time matrix. That's going to take a while to find. First thing you can find is when you entered Harmonic Universe 1 from the higher levels. For many, many of us, particularly those in the Blue Flame Souls group, it was 200,000 years ago, 210,000, 216 years ago. During the last ascension cycle, when we came into hell, and it went all terribly wrong. Whatever message you're given in the flame will be intended to help you begin to put those memory banks back online, so you can remember your drama there. And if you start to get memory, and it doesn't feel good and it's scary, let that be okay right now. Let the fear just move. Acknowledge it, don't let it stay. Let it move through you, and it will move. For beyond that, go back beyond the point of the fear. The point before it all went bad, where the fear imprint came from. And you'll begin to find who you were before you came. You'll begin to find your ancient family lines, the track of your consciousness as you move down into your minds. This is what the beginning process is of starting to be able to say, yeah, I remember what I was doing 560 million years ago. Yeah, I was this person, we did that and that and the other thing. Then you can recognize the dramas when they pop up in your life too. It's like, I look at people, I go, oh, it's you. Except it's kind of sad because most people don't remember me. And most people here at this point are the same people who've been here over and over and over again. And I've been here over and over and over again. The only difference is I remember. And I look at you and say, oh, look how far they've come. It's like, oh, this is still having trouble, It's like, it will be so wonderful when we all can get into that space where we can look at each other and crack up. Oh, you're this time. Cool. Look at that. Remember? Why you're this time? Yeah. We can have these conversations, and on higher levels we do. It's about bringing it back here. If we can begin remembering, going into the flame, getting our message, and trying to reach our vector of consciousness back into the time when the last ascension cycle took place here, we're going to find a cure for this one. There. We're going to reverse this polarity there. It went into the negative, lower vibrating fields there. We're going to bring it back into the higher. Now, this meditation that Marianne's going to do will get you there and get you centered and get you into the flame. Then, I'm going to take you into a remote viewing experience. And this is going to be a real experience because they didn't give it to me yet. It's going to download spontaneously. I love when they do this. You wonder why the exercises aren't in the chart pack sometimes? Because they weren't given to me yet. They come through as I just opened myself to spirit to allow them. It's not the same thing as channeling. Okay? Some people channel, and I can channel. I channel only on a sealed channel. There's a sealed channel, so nothing can come in that doesn't belong in. When I do these, it's not channeling. It's simply opening to my own expansion into my multidimensional level of identity, and it just falls down through. It's a higher part of me, a lot of times, that's running them, and it just hasn't informed this part yet. So it's when we go through these, I'm new with it, and that there's a reason for it. If I don't know, I'm still at the level of consciousness with it that you are. We go together, and as they run me through it, run me up into the higher frequencies, because we have resonance, you can bring it up with me. And then once you get there, it's yours. Once you've achieved it, you can achieve it again by yourself. So that's why they do that. I'm going to turn it over to Marianne Calloway, PhD.
You wanted to talk about astral phase law?
You don't want to talk about astral phase law? You want me to talk about it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we just dumped this on her at lunch. Oh, by the way, that one part of the technique that you're doing that involves the little crimson sphere, it's about releasing the phase lock on the astral body. Okay, I'm supposed to explain this, right? Well, they just let me know. Basically, when we get to the point in the exercise that it uses a little crimson sphere, it creates protection and things and balance in your field, but it starts to trigger the codes that unlock. There is a lock, phase lock, between the astral body, the D4 body image, and the D3, D2, D1 body image. It begins to release phase lock between them. So the astral body can begin to pull out while the body's still awake. Usually you have to leave the consciousness out of this body, move it into that body, and then go. There is a way to release the phase lock. And so you do it in stages. You don't just immediately blow it out and you like freak yourself right out. But begin releasing it. So you can take this level of consciousness, keep it, and expand it so you get both. So you can go astral and 3D at the same time, going from single vector. Because even when you're doing astral projection, if you're not awake down here too, you're still single vector. You go from single vector to multi-vector. And the more you can do that, the faster you bring your soul essence in. But the more you can do that, the more you get out of the phase lock of this time vector with your consciousness in your body. You can learn to dance around things like frequency fences and things once you're multi-vector. So that's why our teaching is. So there's the phase lock thing. How's that?
Thank you.
Sure. Go for it, Maria.
Okay, lights? Got it. Yeah, the lights, please. This exercise is a brand new Kelantic technique that just came through about 8:30 last night, so you're not going to find this in the chart back. More lights, please. Let's just get comfortable. And let's turn our attention from our individual consciousness and focus it back up into that disc. That disc that's centered in the room. The collective disc where we'll gather our individual consciousnesses. And these consciousnesses combine with each and every other consciousness in the room to become centered and balanced as the energy seeks the mean. And just be with this energy for just a moment. And centered and balanced, we can return our consciousness back into our own mind as we begin a journey. This is an easy journey. It's a journey without distance. It's a destination that's easily reached by letting an old and familiar guide take us there. This guide that we have is our breath. And it's been with us on all our journeys since we have begun our entrance into this sojourn. All of our reservations are taken care of. Just breathing in slowly, exhaling fully. Breathing in slowly, exhaling fully. And already we're just about there. The destination that we're seeking on this journey is that quiet place inside. That place where that still, small voice resides. From this, our inner temple, the recognition and the remembrance of our divinity, our true essence, is always there, reminding us that we are wondrous expressions of God manifest on this planet. In this place, an inner flame burns brightly, an eternal flame, a constant remembrance of our true identity, our true divine essence. In your mind's eye right now, imagine if you can that flame as a white flame burning brightly. Now, gently move that flame up through the head, through the crown chakra, and up to the 14th chakra, about 36 inches above your head. Centering this flame in our 14th chakra, we can begin to know that the flame begins to turn a beautiful blue. Remembering that this flame, this blue flame, contains a message, a very personal message just for you. And as we continue, that message may be revealed to you. now or perhaps later in dream state. Now we can take that blue flame and begin to travel it down, back through the crown chakra, traveling through the center of our spine, passing through the body, and down through the earth, right from the earth to the earth's core. As we anchor and set the blue flame burning brightly in the earth's core, perhaps you'll begin to notice a sound, a tone, or perhaps a series of tones. For these tones, these sounds are your personal vibratory frequency, your personal link to the halls of the Mente. Be with these tones for a moment. Resonate to them, remember them. These tones will stay with you, and your remembrance will return and strengthen your connection each and every time you use them to this most very sacred place. Bringing the blue flame that we have anchored now in the earth's core, bringing it back up through the earth. Back up as it travels into our bodies, up through the center of our spine, back through the crown chakra, returning once again to the 14th chakra. And in the 14th chakra, this blue flame now becomes a sphere, a beautiful blue sphere. Taking the sphere, moving it down through the crown chakra, moving and staying for a time in our heart chakra. And we notice as it reaches our heart chakra, this sphere now begins to turn a bright and very beautiful crimson color. We're going to continue to energize this sphere by inhaling energy, and as we exhale, expanding the sphere, allowing it to grow larger and larger. Inhaling energy and expanding the sphere on the exhale. As it not only fills our entire body, but as it moves out into our entire field. Pushing it into our entire energy field. As this crimson light fortifies and protects. Strengthened by the sphere, fortified, energized for the work that we need to do as we recommit ourselves to the work that we have in front of us. And we take that commitment and send up thought mixed with the thoughts of all the other light workers into the heavens. and send these thoughts as it travels past the second star to the right and straight on till morning. So the new dawn in the millennium is greeted with a multitude of thoughts of peace, thoughts of dedication of freedom, making the path for the work that will come into being in our ascension process to a new level of awareness that we can only begin to comprehend.
And now that we have been centered within the flame, and now that our consciousness is relaxed, and now that the crimson sphere will begin to release the seals between the three-dimensional body and the fourth-dimensional body. Now I'm going to take you on a journey of remote viewing. And at the end of this journey, we're going to come back into the room, and then we're going to turn toward each other and slowly open our eyes. And then I will take you on the wrap-up of this journey, where you'll be able to begin to see the faces of each other in the other space-time locations come through, flash through. But first we will go on a remote viewing journey. One of the fastest ways to train yourself to get out of body is to use chelantic symbol codes, the primary geomancies. For this exercise, we will use the fifth dimensional geomancy, which is the pentagram, the blue-colored pentagram, 5-pointed star. And as always, we will place it within the security code of the 12th dimensional frequency, which is the 6-pointed Merkaba star, colored white. Hold that symbol in mind for a moment. The blue pentagram within the white Merkaba star, 6-pointed star. Hold it in the middle of your forehead, in your mind's eye. Now put a point of your consciousness right at its center. And now you're going to begin using the breath with the point of consciousness at the center of the symbol. And you're going to inhale energy into the point, and then slowly exhale it into the point again, filling the point with breath energy. You are energizing the symbol. Inhale. Exhale it into the point of light at the center of the symbol, energizing the symbol. And one more time. Inhale. Exhale into the center of the symbol. Now, we are going to do a very rapid inhale breath. And then an exhale breath. And push that symbol out and make it large around you. Feel it move out around you. And now your whole body is at the center of the symbol code, and it has grown huge around you in your field. Feel the reality of the energy form around you. You can work with this at night, at home as well. Sometimes it works better at the beginning when you're laying horizontal. Feel it around you. Breathe gently. And begin to spin both of the symbols in opposite directions, whichever way appears most natural to you, just so they go in opposite directions. Feel the momentum of a slow spin. Feel the spin pick up in momentum a bit. And as it picks up, you will begin to notice, if you really listen, there is a sound pitch that is generated by the counter-rotating movement of the symbol forms. Try to hear it if you can. It's a vibration you may feel first. Then it will turn to a sound tone if you really listen. When you find the sound tone, you will be able to then use it. By pushing it up and making it a higher pitch, you will increase the speed of the rotation of the fields. And what you are doing is activating your Merkaba vehicle. Only part of it, but enough to get you where you can go into multi-vector consciousness. Feel the spin, hear the tone. Hear it go up a notch a little bit, a little higher tone. Up a little bit, and up a little bit more. Each time you're accelerating the spin. If you do this enough, you'll hit a point in the acceleration where you begin to feel energy running through your system, like a vibration that runs through your body cells. That is the point where you want to become multi-vector. Feel that vibration if you can now. Get the speeds up by using the tone to bring the speed up until you feel the wavy form of vibration running through your cells a little bit. Now you will use your 7th chakra, the crown chakra. And out of that chakra you will project from your pineal a vector line, a straight line of your consciousness. And we are going to point this vector once again to Egypt, to the pyramid or the Sphinx, whichever you prefer. Once you've projected your vector line to the location that you desire, you're going to bring the consciousness back, leaving the vector line as a bridge. Then you are going to take your awareness. There's a little point of light. You're going to move it down into the heart chakra. The heart chakra corresponds to the 4th dimension, which corresponds to the astral body. It is a bit like mousing things in